All right, we're live again for another episode of Talk Power BI. We have some friends on the phone today. So, hey, today's episode is sponsored by Real Power BI. Folks, if you're on the phone,
We're live again for another
oops, hold
episode
on, let
of
me
Talk
fix
Power
the
BI.
audio. We have some friends. Perfect, great. All right, so got the audio fixed. So today we got a special topic. We're going to be focusing on small and medium businesses, how Power BI can serve them, what are the challenges in store, and I'm hoping to make it a bit of a discussion because I think that's more fun. And yeah, so today's episode is sponsored by Real Power BI. The idea behind Real Power BI is really simple. It brings real business user with real Power BI projects and matches them up with the best Learn Power BI professionals inside our Learn Power BI program. And that way they can get free help for their first Power BI project. Enrollment or application for Real Power BI for businesses is open right now. If you want more information, just go to realpowerbi.com. All right, so let me welcome folks who we have on our phone, and let's see, who do we have? So we got Charles, Ken, Diego, Anthony, and Mark. Good to have you guys on. Of course, we're gonna do Q&A later, but I'm hoping that some of you, maybe all of you, hop into the discussion at different points and kind of help guide this and make it richer. Let me say hello to folks joining on YouTube. Steve is here, our co-host moderator. Well, I guess he's not playing co-host today. That's all right, Steve. Steve is saying I couldn't log in with Zoom. That's odd. So, dude, that's odd. Yeah, the link should work. I did test it. Do you have folks on? I'll try to ping you later on, see what's going on, and we'll debug that. So, folks, if you're joining on phone, do say hello. Let me know. I'm assuming the audio video is working, but I've been wrong before. So let me know. And especially, I'd love to know where are people calling in from, especially if for today's topic, maybe you mentioned the company that you represent. That hey, I'm so and so calling from Seattle. And I guess I represent a small business, right? So yeah, so I'm Avi Singh. You know me, guys. Hopefully, I'm dialing in from Seattle, back here to Microsoft, and my company is learnpowerbi.com. And I run what I call solopreneur, and I love that. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So Danish Nikolai is here. Hey, snatched a few minutes of Power BI before my flight. All right, so he's probably in an airport somewhere there. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna check in on YouTube once more, but we're gonna kick it off and get started because again, I want to get a few more voices on this topic. So, small and medium business. Why is it close to my heart? For one, from what I've heard, and you know, and maybe I should have brought some statistics to this, but if you go, it's just one Google away. If you look at the impact of the small and medium businesses just in the U.S., I couldn't say for worldwide. It's probably similar, but I can say for sure that in the U.S., the impact of small and medium businesses is huge. Small and medium businesses form the backbone of America. So if you look at the number of people employed, so everybody when they think about jobs and so forth, I mean, I talk to a lot of people who are graduating out of college. So they come to know that, oh, I used to work at Facebook. So yeah, inevitably the discussion is around the big ones, right? Facebook, Amazon, Google, data, all of that. But if you look at the numbers, most people are employed by small and medium businesses, right? So yeah, we may not be as well known, right? I mean, when I worked in Microsoft, my mom was really happy because she could remember where I worked and she could easily tell it to others and they would go, oh yeah, okay, works at Microsoft, right? So a lot of us who work in small and medium businesses do not have that privilege. Doesn't mean that we're still not proud. I hope you are, right? I mean, you should be, because again, they form the backbone. They employ a lot of people, a lot more people than large businesses. So they're there. They're the big presence. But if I may contrast this into some of the folks have heard me talk about it, the BP era before Power BI and after Power BI era. All right. So let's say, all right, hold on, let's see. Chat window. All right, so Clint helped me out. Something like 80% of the economy is actually made up by small businesses. Small businesses. Wow, that's just small businesses. It's from a recent SBTC course in Denver. So thanks, Clint, for helping me out with that. So there you go, guys. Now we have numbers. Now it's official, right? Now it's true. Okay, just messing with you. So let's talk about small and medium businesses in the BP era and in the AP in the after Power BI era. And of course, we're focusing kind of on BI. But if you think about it, I mean, data is so woven into the fate and the running of a company, or it should be, right? It should be that you can talk about BI or you can talk about the company. I mean, in my mind, it shouldn't be different. BI shouldn't be the separate thing that, oh, that's this other department, we do it over there. Yeah, you need BI, you go over there. No, it should be woven into how you do it. Now, of course, the fact that it isn't for a lot of businesses, maybe that's a problem. Maybe that's a challenge, right? But anyway, so we're talking about BI and go with that focus. So in the BP era, before, I should spell it out. I'm not a huge fan of acronyms. Microsoft, they had a TLA for everything. Of course, TLA stands for three-letter acronym. So that was their internal joke. Like, yeah, we got TLAs. So and of course it's I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. So after Power BI. So in the BP era, well, there were these multi-million-dollar BI solutions. Now, I think in US officially less than 500 is still considered medium business. Different places definitions can vary. Yeah, I mean, of course, if you look at Microsoft, which at one point had 100,000 employees, I'm not sure how many they have right now. That's pretty big, right? So 500, yeah, it's still small. So I was part of a team of 300 people. 300 people, all right? And guess how much we paid for BI? We paid $2 million in, here's a kicker, maintenance. Maintenance, my friends. How much did it cost to build the system? Oops. Let's do insert page break. All right. Let's do insert page break. Okay, cool. All right, now we're official. So how much did it cost? Let's get some distractions out of the way. And where's the window? Okay. All right. Wow. Actually, I don't know how to keep this on. Keep on top is on. It keeps going away. All right. Well, we'll try it this way. Perfect. So 300 people. So this is a story, right? True story. 300 people, $2 million in maintenance. I don't know to build it. I don't really know. I'm assuming if it costs $2 million to build, maybe it costs $2 million to maintain every year. Then it costs I don't know, $10 million to build, right? And for $2 million, it was, there's no other word, it was shitty. We didn't get the reports that we needed. It was out of date. The data was inaccurate, and you needed something done, and yep, it went to this queue, and there was a cut line, and if you made it this quarter, good, maybe you're lucky, or maybe you bribed them. If not, wait for the next quarter. It was just right. So, and so if you ignore this fact, the thing is, and this is just one of the stories I've heard of large companies spending billions. In fact, there was one story which is well confirmed because I got it direct from one of the top members of the company. They spent $4 billion on a project which resulted in a zero report. So anyway, so there's this stuff going on in big companies, but small and medium businesses couldn't even think about it, right? For one, so by the way, how come our company of 300 people was spending $2 million? Because we were not a company, we were a company within a company. This was a Microsoft team. Microsoft unit, whatever, right? So we were a small Microsoft unit of 300 people, and right, any other company would not spend this much. So basically, this big budget BI solutions were out of reach. Out of reach. So, well, not that you don't need BI. So I always say that self-serve BI is nothing new. It's decades old. It's been done as as long as we've had data, but it was done with duct tape and band-aid. And again, not to throw Excel under the bus. Excel is a very flexible tool, very versatile tool. So Excel was often used for that, but that's not the point. It's not about the tool, but just that it's not built for this kind of stuff. It's not built for run BI for companies. It was never built for that, right? So duct tape and band-aid, that's how BI was run. So not a good solution. Now, what is it after Power BI era? I think there's this tremendous opportunity, right? Tremendous opportunity. So for one, it is Power BI got so many good things going on. So Power BI is accessible. Accessible. Some may argue with me on this, but Excel, one popularity of Excel was it's a common man's tool. Anybody can learn it. I believe, right? And again, it's okay if you disagree. Power BI is very accessible. I, as an Excel user, it was easy for me to get started in Power BI. And then, of course, there's this whole thing about easy to get started, easy to learn how to master that kind of stuff. We wouldn't go there today. But Power BI is very accessible. And of course, one part of that is the affordability, which is free. And again, there's a licensing discussion, but hey guys, come on. Power BI Desktop is free. It's free, right? There's no cost to it. So it's very accessible in terms of, maybe I should spell it out, like understandable, like approachable by the kind of the common man, right? The business person or something, right? So kind of like Excel. So it's accessible, it's affordable, but of course the bigger thing. Now those two things are kind of true for Excel as well. But man, Power BI is I'm not sure how to say it, but it's strong. It's scalable, robust. What comments are flying in on our chat with the students, right? So it scales. So and Excel, when I say Excel, guys, I mean the old Excel, right? And the modern Excel has the strength of Power BI built in. So the old Excel had this tendency to die under its own weight. It's great to start with, right? I mean, I hear this, oh, this is so much easier in Excel. I could do that in Excel. I'm like, yeah, sure you could. Go ahead and try it, right? See what it ends up in 1 year. Inevitably, it died under its own weight because as business changed, requirements changed, you kept adding stuff, and yeah, again, Excel isn't built for that, right? So it dies under its own weight. Power BI doesn't have the tendency. Now, you can end up on that road. You can end up on that path if you take a few wrong turns. Don't do that. Follow my advice. All right. So, but generally, if you use it right, then it's amazing, right? It has all the benefits, none of the drawbacks. So, yeah, I think it's a tremendous opportunity. So think about it, an area which was kind of underserved, right? And now has a great opportunity, but it gets better than that. Right? And here's the thing. Small and medium businesses, so SMB, can move faster than large businesses. Can move much faster than large businesses. And I've been in this industry for a long time. And again, sure, there would be exceptions, but as a rule, I see a Power BI deployment in large businesses and it makes me want to pull my hair out. I'm like, what is going on? For one, it's always this big project, 6 months, 1 year, right? And it always, if they plan for 6 months, it ends up in 1 year. And sometimes the way they start is, oh, we're going to inventory all our old reports, and they're going to count that up. They can meet every team. That takes a month, by the way. And they say, oh, we catalog 600 reports. Cool. Let's start transitioning them one by one to Power BI. or it's like, oh, we could do the first 200. It's ridiculous. It's like, no, don't do that, right? So, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Like even before they get started, I mean, the tool selection is challenging. and everybody steps in. I was like, all the red tape and all this stuff. Oh, wait a second. Let's talk about licensing. I'm like, forget about licensing. Have you even evaluated? Do you even know it's the right tool for you? But, licensing, oh, let's talk about security. Oh, it's not secure. Right. All of that sort of stuff. Let's make sure we have a security model before we start rolling it out. Because guess what? Business users don't know what's good for them. Right? Come on, guys. I mean, they are the frontline troops. It's your job to support them, not get in their way. All right. So anyway, and by far, what I've seen is SMBs once they get on board. There's certainly challenges. There's some challenges around getting started, but once they get on board, man, they can move lightning fast. I mean, once they get it, like, yeah, look at us. I mean, we can do it. Move full speed ahead. They move full speed ahead. So, think about like trying to turn a cruise ship. So, a large business is that cruise ship. I mean, even if they see that, oh shit, there's an iceberg right there, right? They're gonna take some time to turn, and sometimes too late. But a small ship, that's the advantage of small and medium business. Man, they're quick. And hey, guess what? Guess what, guys? The small, oh boy, small medium businesses of today are large businesses of tomorrow. Maybe this is your turning point. Carpe diem, my friends, right? So if you are part of a small and medium business, maybe this is it. They all started small, but you don't have to stay small. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the moment. So that's the good stuff. There are some challenges. So instead of me talking about that, let's see if we can bring in some voices. So, folks, I'm gonna let's see if I can. How do I do pop out? Cool. All right, so I'm gonna go to chat, but boy, so Ken has a lot of thoughts. Probably Ken, I'm probably gonna have you kind of summarize some of those for me. So let's do this. So how about we go unpin, and so folks on the phone. So this was an open invite to all of our Learn Power BI members. So like, hey, if somebody wants to share thoughts and ideas, Steve, glad you can make it. I know we're trying a new system. Probably I should have, given a heads up. But what do you guys think about the opportunity part, but especially the challenges part? Go ahead and unmute yourself, and let's see if we can get a few thoughts around
Avi,
that.
Avi.
Hey, Ken.
So I know I sent you a lot of stuff. I just found that on my first Google
Yeah.
message there, and a message from my consulting with small and medium business is they are they're resource starved.
Mm-hmm.
They're so resource starved
Yeah.
that or maybe think about it as attention starved. They might actually
Huh.
have money, but they
Yeah.
do not have and cannot find the ability to just pay attention long enough
Yeah.
to undertake anything.
Interesting.
And the other half of that is they have this thing which in is called hill climbing.
Hill climbing. Okay.
Yeah, it's like if you have this topological map of things you need to learn, and
Yeah.
your algorithm says always keep going up, and you go up a little hill, you never get off of it,
Ah,
right?
that's beautiful.
They they can they are managing to keep themselves afloat somehow, but they're convinced that they should not make a move unless it's really positive, and you can prove it to them in advance, so they're stuck on top of whatever little hill they're on.
Yeah, so I'll say though that this is a problem for small and large companies alike, right? I mean, IBM climbed on the top of the hill and they refused to climb down, and guess what? Microsoft, kind of ate their lunch, and of course it happens over and over and over again. So that is not a unique to them, but maybe they're more susceptible to that. Maybe they're more kind of small hills in that terrain, if you will. That's a beautiful analogy, by the way. That's so visual. So, guys, I'm gonna say it again just to make sure I understand it. And heck, let me see. So, Ken, give me a second. I'm gonna see if I can bring up a topological map. How do we do this? Shoot satellite. How do you? Oh, there we go. Wait, is that it? No. Uh, well, let's say Seattle topography map. Oh, cool, nice. Google to the rescue. So, folks, the analogy Ken is talking about. So, by the way, I live somewhere here. Let's go to a mountain that we climb. It's called Poo Point. Yeah, interesting name, right? It's beautiful. So, imagine looking at a topography or something. And of course, when you're down in the valley, you don't see the landscape, right? This is us seeing aerial view. So what Ken was saying was that if you follow this principle that we're always going to go up, and of course that seems obvious, right? So obvious, but it may not be right, right? So if you say, hey, we're constantly going to go up, up, why should we ever go down? The risk with that is that if you climb, kind of this small hill, it's kind of hard to see. Maybe we should have gone to Mount Si, right? So if you climb one small hill, and then your philosophy is that you want to keep going up, then you cannot go to the other taller mountains, right? So that's a challenge. And again, I think that's can happen to both, but maybe small and medium business are more susceptible to it. Ken, I also like one of the things you said that they have money. So there's a common misconception that they're always kind of money starved. No, I mean a lot of these businesses uh, are are in fact really doing well, right? So I've heard of. I know one of her clients. One of her students. She helps kind of landscaping companies, and it's called the trade industry. Kind of maybe would we call it blue collar? Not quite, but trade industry. So there's landscaping, plumbing, that sort of stuff, and a lot of them have great growth. They have great money, but they're not like really managing the business. Cool. So finish that thought though. So you talked about this. So resource starved, attention starved. I like that. And do you have money? So what's the real challenge? Would you say?
In my experience, it, it, there has to be a leader
Hmm.
in the business who says, no, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
We're going to, you know,
Yeah.
uh, it, you cannot come in and get them past that yourself as a consultant, right?
Interesting.
Um, and
Okay.
I've never seen it really driven from the bottom up. But I have worked with a couple of people
Yeah.
who just understand the cost of getting the organization to a better place and are willing to pay it. And people will then go along with them, but people won't just do it on their own.
Yeah. I would argue with you on that. I would say that it bottom up is the only success I've seen. And if you think about it, bottom up, the advantage for that is so what you have is called the Trojan horse approach, right? So it's if I go in as an external consultant and I'm talking to the leadership, let's say CEO, right? CEO, somebody, man, it's harder for me to convince. I mean, first of all, I have to win their credibility. I might not be the only consultant they're talking to. They might be talking to a Tableau guy as well. And man, they have amazing sales team, Tableau Domo. And I was talking to a small medium business, and they said, man, Power BI is very different because when we were looking at Tableau Domo, we had assigned sales reps for each of them, which were helping us every step of the way. Microsoft doesn't even pay attention. I mean, it's impossible to get a sales rep to talk to me. So right. I mean, as an external party, it's I have a lot of barriers. But if there can be somebody inside, right? And of course, Charles is an incredible story. He's on the phone right now, where somebody who works for you say, "Hey, look at this." And again, it's not like talking. They're not saying, "Oh, Power BI can do this, can do that." No, look at this, right? So I think bottom up is always a great approach. Frankly, small or large organizations, I'm convinced that it even works well or even is probably best bottom up. In fact, I would say that even if the leader is convinced, they should go back and try to start it up as a bottom up, try to do a project. All right, cool. So yeah, what's your take on that?
Well, first, I have several true horror stories about when it does start and and there's this great thing going on, and from the leadership level, they
Yeah.
just crush it.
Yes. The evil
Sometimes to the
leader.
point, sometimes to the point of bankrupting the business because
uh,
because the leaders know best. Um,
yeah. Yeah. So,
but
yeah, that's a
it,
I have a quick comment.
uh, yeah, yeah. So Charles, I had one thought. I'm going to share that, and yes, I
Okay.
definitely want to hear from you. So I was talking to at that point I was working at Microsoft, and I was talking to a friend of mine who was in San Francisco who had worked for one startup and the other, and you were talking about the dynamic there. And what he said was, Avi, for you, when you got Steve Ballmer and then Satya Nadella, it's your life doesn't change kind of overnight. It's yeah, I mean sure, again it's a cruise ship turning, but yeah, but for me in a small business, things can change on a whim, right? With the boss woke up one day and said, "Oh, we're going this way," then you're going that way. So I guess maybe small and medium businesses are a little more susceptible to that, but so yeah, the dynamic may be different. Cool. So Charles, yeah, what's your overall take on this kind of opportunity challenges, and yeah, if you had any specific thoughts, I know you were gonna comment
Yeah.
something probably on the discussion we're having. Yeah. Oh, oh.
Yep. So my internet connection. One is it pretty bad?
It's okay. Keep going. Let's see how it goes. Yeah.
Okay. So if it comes from the top or if it driven from the bottom. So the point or the thing that I've seen is interesting is if it's from the top, it's potentially driven by fear down to the bottom level. But in my company, what
Hmm.
I was doing was from the bottom, I was part of this, was it was driven by passion, by seeing something that was really, really powerful. And then I had to sell it to
Yeah.
the rest of the company and to my peers and cohorts. And then when you get this kind of groundswell and this passion built up and other people start seeing it, then the whole company starts, it's a long-term game.
Yeah.
You got to do this build, but when you get everybody else to see it and you get this passion, and you've built this pent up pressure, it really helps the whole company to move forward. So that's been interesting. That's been my insight, and I'm seeing that in some other companies too. So, and along the lines of, I've been talking to a lot of small, medium sized companies.
Yeah.
Um, One of the challenges is, not knowing what the data does, and what I've had to do is break it down into, what's your process? What are
Hmm.
what are the processes? What are the data? What is the data that you collect? And then we start looking at it. Is it dates? Is it labor hours? Is it
Hmm.
what are all the data tables, and kind of get them thinking in that manner, and then then start thinking about the filter tables, and you kind of build the model in their head and in your head, and kind of show them. I think you do this too, is kind of show them how that would work, and have it think through their business processes and how this would improve them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people get stuck on the output, which is the
Hmm.
visualizations.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you got to think about your processes and what you're going to improve in your processes, and then
Yeah.
start to form and change their thinking into the
Yeah.
tables, the data
Yeah.
tables, and the filters.
Yeah.
So
Oh man, that's true, right? So if you think about it, oh man, there's so much there. I feel like hitting rewind to unpack it all. But the thought that I had was, is kind of Power BI or BI is business. It's right. I mean, we're talking about business here, and of course, I'll go a little meta over here. And guys, I mean, business is life as well. So, um, yeah, right. I mean, some of these things kind of apply to us as well. So, I like the part where you said show them. I definitely believe in that, and I definitely believe that is a lot more powerful when it comes from inside if you have the right leadership. Again, I mean, you can be in one of those weird companies. We talked about evil dictator, crushes all or something. Um, I'm thinking about one of my comic books, Captain Underpants. He's got an evil principal. If there are any fans out there, so it can be there, but generally, generally people are nice. I mean, I believe in that. So show them, and especially if it comes internally, that's powerful. But I also like that what you're saying, that don't look at it one dimensionally. Don't necessarily look at it just as a BI thing. We look at it from a business. And of course, I'm a huge believer in process. Uh, right? So look at it from that perspective. So it's great to
Right.
hear that you're kind of guiding your clients that way. So let me try to kind of recap some of the things we've heard so far. So for the challenges part, I'm gonna focus. So certainly, guys, I hope I convince you. I mean, I think it's a really easy case to make that it's a tremendous opportunity, right? It's a tremendous opportunity. Um, but I'm going to talk about challenges. Maybe I hadn't even actually thought about it when I stepped into the session. Now it seemed obvious. We would maybe talk about how to get over those challenges, and of course, some of that is coming up in the discussion already. So, one is this about this kind of, yeah, they just, you just don't have their attention, and how do you even get their attention? And Ken kind of clued us on that, and then we had this discussion of kind of top to bottom versus bottom to top, focusing on process. Cool. Say, I wanna ask if there are other members on the phone who would like to chime in and just share your thoughts. Uh, yeah, I would love to hear from somebody else as well.
Avi.
Hey, Steve.
So
What? Yeah.
I
Go
may
ahead.
bring a different perspective on this.
Mm-hmm.
Not serving as a consultant going into companies. I am, just an individual within the company,
Yeah.
and I'm about as bottom up as you can get when it comes to implementing a new technology.
Yeah. You're being a little
And
humble, but that's okay. Yeah.
so, I'm a believer that if you show people how it can benefit them in their daily work,
Yeah.
that they'll buy in, and that's been my experience. I've seen it
Uh huh.
a number of times. What can this do to make my daily grind easier?
Yeah.
And it has helped me in many ways,
Yeah.
that way. And a lot of times, some of the difficulty I have is, uh, people are resistant to change.
Yeah.
Uh, but those that it's really going to help, they will do it. There are people that are
Hmm.
happy with, I'm kind of satisfied with the way I do it. Either they may understand that it could help them, they don't want to make the effort to learn it,
Yeah.
or they're just happy doing things the way they do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are afraid to adopt new things because, or even like we've had a situation here where um, it seemed like it would then focus on one person would be the expert, and that if that person were to get sick or leave or
Mm-hmm.
then the people left behind wouldn't be able to uh, do the work.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, that's could be a thing. Yeah, the dependency thing. I've heard that. I do want to come back and unpack that. But I liked one thing you said, and of course, I often do this kind of thing where I feel like, oh, this applies to business. Does it apply to my life? And it applies to my life, but does it apply to business? And like agile, there's last vacation we took. I try to use the agile methodology for the vacation. So I do something like that. But then also there's this thing about, you started off by saying, hey, I'm not a consultant, but for one, we definitely want to hear from you, because I think most people on this call are going to be part of a company just working there, not consultants. But so that's valuable. But there's this thing that there are some things which are valuable no matter what. So one part of what you said, I think, is valuable, really valuable, no matter what, whether you're an employee or a consultant, which is the way I saw it was you talked about putting customers first. And I know sometimes so I use this phrase in my head a lot of times when I get stuck with something. I say, hey, it's not about me. It's not about me, because you just start like, oh, I want to do this and do that. No, it's about them. So I liked what you said there, where you said that, figure out what their pain points are, figure out where it's hurting, and if you can solve it, right? I mean, they're obviously gonna like that. That's really good. Um, so let's unpack this fear thing a little bit, because I've also seen it on in another way. So there could be that the hero syndrome, that hey, I mean, oh gosh, Steve is the only guy who knows Power BI. If he wins the lottery, then we're stuck. What are we gonna do? And of course, maybe even if there are multiple people, but there is this thing which is like you talk to a CFO, sometimes small and medium business, and they're like, hey, I know Excel. As long as it's in Excel, I can figure it out. It could be broken, but I mean, it could be messy, but at least I know I can fix it. And once it goes into Power BI, it's like, where is it? So I remember an Excel I love doing that, where you took somebody's messy Excel file and you use the Power BI under the hood, which is Power Pivot, Power Query, and all that. And you would give to them, and it would have all of their pivot tables, and they would say, "Oh man, this works. This works great. It's much faster." But where the heck is the data, right? I mean, so and sometimes it was cool, but sometimes they got panicked, like, "Oh gosh, I don't know where it is," right? And then of course I could show them and say, "Hey, it's over there." But there's that fear as well, where it's like, no, I mean, it's bad, but it's mine. Like the old
Mm-hmm.
world of Excel is bad, but it's mine. It's messy, but it's mine. And this new thing I don't know. So, and that whole like, oh, I don't want to be like dependent on this one person. And maybe that's what are your thoughts on that? I mean, that's something real. Is there a way to counter that? What would you say to that?
Well, I'm not. I would point out that with some moderate degree of effort, that any intelligent person can do this.
Yeah,
It's not that hard,
yeah,
and the benefits just far outweigh the
yeah,
staying with some ridiculous system that is set up, uh, that is just a burden every day.
yeah, yeah. And I think you have done stuff like that, right? Where you have. So the approach that I've heard from you, which is I think a great approach, is that you don't just try to build stuff for them, you try to help them. So you
Oh yeah,
maybe at
absolutely.
times would sit down with them, I don't know, physically or just virtually, and show them stuff and show them not just
Oh,
like I mean not just catch the fish for them, but show them how to fish. I think you
I
actively
absolutely I insist upon whether they like it or not.
yeah
I will force them to
yeah
understand what's going on,
yeah
uh, either be in like a query editor, or
yeah
which is where most of the people have
yeah.
where it benefits most people very
That's right.
quickly is in a
Yeah,
query
that's right.
editor.
Query editor is a quick. They kind of get it, and yep, query editor
But I
is a great
want
one.
them to know what's going on. I'm not that I mind them asking me questions, but
Yeah,
these are people that I think are want to learn, and I want them to learn. So
yeah,
yeah, I uh,
yeah,
I kind of insist upon that
yeah,
to a small degree.
yeah. So
I don't just build stuff and turn it over without explaining it.
yeah, that's brilliant. I will say that there's one thing in my old kind of Excel days which I'm not too proud of, which is that I would. I guess there was some insecurity, and maybe I'm not sure if it's I don't want to generalize it too much, but it's possible that in that old world, there's something there when you're creating these Excel sheets, which you're kind of proud of, but kind of hate them as well. Where, yeah, I mean, you kind of have this love hate thing going on with that, um, where there was some insecurity. I mean, some part of me realized even then that I'm not really adding much value. Like somebody else could do it easily. So the I would do things like where if I was told to transition a report to somebody, I would tell them like all the steps, but just miss one crucial one, because I wanted to feel important. I wanted them to come back to me and I wanted to be in the position like, oh man, only Avi can do it. But oddly enough, the whole dynamic changed when I discovered Power BI, and I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure, but the dynamic was completely opposite. Now I couldn't stop telling others. Like I would teach them in hallways. I would teach them if they walked by my office and asked me a question. I would say, sit down. Kind of like what you were saying. Like I would force them. Like, no, sit down. I'm going to show you, right? And of course, I did brown bags and all that. I could do everything, right? So that changed, and I think that spirit is important, right? So and I'm not sure. I mean, for me, somehow going from Excel to Power BI, I had that switch. But if that switch hasn't happened, if you're still going with that mindset that I was carrying around, you're probably not going to succeed yourself. You're definitely not going to help others succeed as well. All right, so I see Ken's raised hand. I do want to hear more from others about this thing, kind of fear depending on one person technology. So Ken, go ahead, thoughts on this, or if you want to add something else.
Just a quick one. That hero model, only employee X can do it.
Yeah.
That's part of a culture which is really not willing to come to grips with, anything really, but it's data. And the part of the challenge of Power BI, of telling people you can all do it, is they don't want it. In some cases, they don't want that. They want it to be somebody's responsibility, right? Avi,
Okay.
Avi is the one. Avi is in control. Avi can do it. They really want that.
Wait. So are you talking about the management or kind of company as a whole? Who's
just
they?
Everybody? There are places where they have this sort of. They're not only siloed, but there's one person who's responsible. It's usually a culture where everyone's constantly afraid of being accused of making a mistake. One person is responsible for a data system or something. No one else thinks about it, cares about it, sticks their nose in, right?
Yeah.
That is responsible. It's a sign of a kind of immature organizational culture.
I would agree. I would say, frankly, if an organization has that kind of culture, there are way bigger problems than some of the stuff we're discussing, right? So, if you are like, oh, that's so well, so if that's the case, then I think there are bigger problems. But what about a healthier organization? Why don't we go with that assumption that, well, sure, some companies or could be the way you describe, but other companies, the employee, the manager, the management, they all have the best interest in mind. And I would say that's generally true, right? I mean, everybody wants to succeed. If you're part of a company, dude, I mean, if you don't want to succeed, get the hell out of there, right? But generally, just by being part of the company as a leader or as an employee or manager, you want that company to succeed. So I would say, kind of people are good and all that stuff. So, and I think that's what I generally see. So what about in that environment? Everybody has the best intentions, but do we get in our own way at time?
I think Steve's, talking about what he's doing.
Yeah.
People need a role model, and sometimes they need to be taken by the hand until they get the confidence that like you actually can care about your data.
Yes.
And you have some tools you can actually use, because if you just say you should care about your data, they'll be like, no, man, it will be bad. I don't know anything. But the sort of sitting down with them, like he's talking about doing, or you're talking about doing, so you have to teach them to be brave. You have to inspire them to be braver.
Guys, tweet that stuff, all right? No, that's really good. Teach, yeah. So, man, I find that beautiful on so many levels, because we often have these ideas of frankly just like being smart, and a lot of other things where we think he's just smart. But a lot of these things, public speaking, that's a great example. Bravery, as Ken pointed out, right? So, but I think a lot of these things can be learned, can be taught. So that's an interesting idea, to teach them to be brave. I will say that I really loved what you said earlier as well. Taken by the hand. Take them by the hand. So I'm going to dive into that a little bit here. So I'll just share some of the examples I've seen. So take them by the hand. So of course, if you guys think about it, that's kind of what we're doing with realpowerbi.com, right? So And the companies that we worked with last time, there was a ski resort in Utah. Uh, there was a freight company in Kenya, and other companies there. Could they not do it themselves? They sure could, right? I mean, they sure could. Maybe they wouldn't go as fast or have the results as soon as with the help of this program. By the way, folks who caught on late, realpowerbi.com, Real Power BI. That's the idea is simple. We bring in small and medium business users who are looking to kind of get started on Power BI, and we match them up with professionals in our Learn Power BI program and get them free help to get started. So and that one is open right now. They could do it by themselves, but just the fact that somebody can kind of hold their hand and lead them through is a huge thing. And of course, I see it over and over again. There was a person, so we do once a month in a pro level, we do private calls, private consulting calls with our students. And frankly, right now, that's the only way to get one-on-one time with me. And I'll admit, I was resistant to this for a long time. I wasn't sure I wanted to do this because my coach prefers kind of group calls. He say, hey, in a group call, which we also do. Well, this is the group call, right? But we also do it for a class. Is that you learn from others, you learn from their questions, you can help others, all of that sort of stuff. So I definitely believe in that. I think that's so we do that inside our class as well. Of course, in Talk Power BI as well. And so I was resistant to the private calls, but I remember once getting on with a student who clearly was really smart. But he said, Avi, can you just help me with this? And he shared his screen, and I took him step by step in the query editor and just showed it. And it wasn't too hard. I mean, I think he kind of realized that, yeah, I could have done it myself. But once he had seen that, he was like, oh, whew, like a weight had lifted off. It's just, oh, cool, Avi, you got me over the hump. Now I can do it. And if I may call on Steve, we had a similar experience with Steve. Now, Steve has been with this program for a while. He helps students all the time. And man, if you see some of the work he does, he's so methodical. Like when he's learning DAX functions, he compiles his almost library. I was like, oh, I can write this function like 10 different ways, and this is what I see. Avi, which one is better, right? So he's very perceptive. He's made great progress there. But there was one area where Steve was kind of stuck, which was on the visualization side, kind of leaving the Excel behind and pivot tables. And all it took was about 30 minutes of me leading him by the hand, and I was surprised by the results as well. So I have seen it enough times to know that this is really valuable, right? So, Steve, what do you? So it sounded like, oh well, Steve's still on. Oh shoot, I think he dropped off. But I want to hear from others. Oh, cool. Yeah. So Steve, it sounded like you do the same, right? I mean, it's right. So when you're talking about you helping them, you do this a whole lot, or you do this. Tell me about maybe a specific experience, if you can recall, and folks, others on the call as well. I would like to hear like specific experience, like, yep, there was this, I don't know, colleague or client or whatever, and I did this. So, Steve, do you recall a story like that?
Yeah, I have many like that.
Beautiful. I expected that. Yeah.
For example, one guy I work with has to get payroll information out of it's a text file that's generated from a larger system.
Yeah.
And it comes in as sort of in a report format. It's not in data fields. It's a text file. Yeah. It's got headers and footers and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I just worked with him. We just brought that into the query editor.
Yeah.
And then able to separate it into columns. And
yeah, actually, can I pause for a second? I want to really visualize it. So, were you, I don't know, like physically there, or were you doing it virtually? What was going on?
No, physically there.
Got it. So were you at the person's desk? or were they at your desk?
He was at my desk.
Got it.
But initially what I did was I did something just kind of rough,
Okay.
and I gave it to him, and
Yes.
then he was interested in enhancing it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then we worked together.
Yeah.
I showed him the steps, what we did to get there,
Yeah.
and then how to combine.
Yeah.
These files come one every day, and then
Uh-huh.
if he wants to combine them into a table that contains multiple days,
Yeah.
how to get files from a folder, and show him
Yeah.
add the new file, and
Yeah.
it refreshed and it's updated.
Yeah. So again, I don't know. I really want to kind of see it. So, do you remember? Was it you kind of sitting and driving, and like you had the keyboard and mouse, you kind of showed them, or maybe you did that initially and then you had them take over.
Yeah,
How did it really
initially I
happen?
did it.
Okay.
Initially I had set something up, and
Yeah.
then I said, hey, the guy's
Yeah.
name is Carl. Hey, Carl, take a look at this.
Yeah. Got it.
And he's like, whoa, that's really helpful.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
How do we do this?
Yeah.
Can you help me understand this
Yeah.
so that I can do it myself?
Beautiful.
And he's a pretty smart guy. I
Mhm.
didn't have to hold his hand for very long.
Cool. But still,
And
so what he came over to your desk, and so when you did show him, um like, did you have him kind of sit down and you told him, like, hey, click here, click there, or how
not
did that?
initially.
Okay.
Initially,
Okay.
I had developed it first.
Yeah.
We didn't do it. We didn't
Yeah,
do
but
it on
the
this.
enhancement part,
Oh,
there
he did
you
that
had him
at
drive.
his desk by himself. I gave him. He got a book. He
Yeah.
got that. M is for Data Monkey.
Yeah, that's
the
a good book.
PowerBIPro book,
Yes.
and he just went on about his business.
That's
And then if he ever had any
unbelievable.
questions, he'd come see me, but that
Wow.
wasn't very often.
Wow. Wow. So, so besides sending him something rough, which you had done, was there another touch point with him where you kind of helped him?
No,
Wow.
not really.
Wow. Yeah. So sometimes, I mean, as you were saying, like, the hand holding was very little.
Yeah, I think a large part of it is just people know that this exists.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to go back to that as well. There was some part where I think the Ken was talking about solution. Yeah. So I'll take a note of that. That's true.
Yeah,
Terrific.
I saw a guy at work the other night. This is at the racetrack, and he had worked here 5 or 6 years ago,
Yeah.
and he had developed some very moderate to advanced Excel documents.
Yeah.
He works for a bank now.
Uh-huh.
So I said, hey, Jason, so we're still using that Excel file. It had some macros in it and things. So we're still using that thing.
Yeah.
And he just laughed, and I said, oh, by the way,
Uh-huh.
are you familiar with Power BI?
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
And I told him
Yeah.
he needs to get on board,
I know.
because he's a perfect guy that would benefit from it. But
I know. Yeah.
but
and-
never heard of it.
Yeah. So frankly, I mean, I like kind of the bottom up idea and so forth, because I feel like if it's a good thing, if it's not a good thing, then bottom up is never going to work. But if it's a good thing, it can go. Yeah. I mean, one person helps
Well,
two more or five more, and man, we're gonna start a revolution. We are.
well,
in the
sure.
midst of a
And there's
revolution.
levels. I mean, if just a handful of people benefit from it, what's wrong with that? And if it goes further than that, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. So of course, inside our program, we were having this debate. So Mark Daniels, he's a member, and there was this crazy idea we cooked up, and he said, Mark, what if you helped 1,000 people in 30 days? And well, yeah, just go to all the forums or a class forum and external forums, just try to answer like 1,000 questions. And that was great. But then Mark said, hey, then Mark came back and said, Avi, that was a great idea, and I was going for it. But I got hired by this company to help them with Power BI. So I'm not sure I can do it. And I said, no, don't worry about it. It's far better to help one person or one company or one client or whatever in a deeper way than to try to touch thousands. So yeah, I don't think we should think about that. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Um,
I just don't think it's an all or nothing thing, that if you
I
either the
like that.
company adopts Power BI
Ooh,
or
wow.
Advanced Excel,
I
or they don't. It's not. There's there's degrees.
yeah. I find that is beautiful. So this company adopts or doesn't for a few reasons. For one, I kind of don't like seeing things in black and white anyway. But so again, if you think about your mindset, if you go in like, oh man, I mean, like if let's say you love Power BI, most of the people on this call do, and I've talked to people who are like, oh man, my company, like nobody cares, and that my manager wouldn't listen, my CEO wouldn't listen, da da da, and they're so in a frankly in a very negative place, and I think you can't succeed with that energy, or you certainly reduce your chances of success. But they're holding on to it too much, right? They're like, no, Power BI has to win. Why do they talk about Tableau? I don't like Tableau, whatever, right? But so what Steve is saying, like, don't see it that way. It's not all or nothing. And again, we're going to focus on helping people or something like that. But if you don't see it as not all or nothing, that I think for one, your mindset is going to be kind of more balanced. That's going to frankly improve your chances. The other thing that I would say is that this is the reality. So I often use the example of BYOD. Folks who work in IT would know what I'm talking about. So this is bring your own device. Now, if you remember, let me take you back to the times when companies handed out BlackBerry. Anybody got a BlackBerry? I got a BlackBerry, and I was so happy, so proud. I'm like, oh, cool, BlackBerry. And the company handed out BlackBerry. That's just how it was done, right? I mean, you joined a company, and people had two phones, and they had these hip holsters, and one BlackBerry on one side, personal cell phone on the other side. Those days are gone, dead and gone. That's never coming back because even at Microsoft, like, dude, we don't care if you bring an iPhone. Who cares, right? You bring your own device, we'll make it work with a system. You'll be able to check your email, office email, da da da, VPN, and all that sort of stuff, right? So bring your own device. The world that is already a reality is bring your own visualization. And of course, that's where I kind of love Power BI. So Power BI is not a visualization tool. Often people confuse, and that's so people ask me like, "Oh, Power BI versus Tableau." I'm like, "What are you talking about? There's no versus." So there is, I think, like for a BI platform, you can't have bring your own. You can't have multiple platforms. Uh, you, uh, you got to pick one, right? So, but let's say you pick Microsoft Power BI as a platform or Microsoft BI, right? But then, in most modern organizations, it's BYOV, bring your own visualization. So, can they use Power BI for visualization? Sure, absolutely. Can they use Excel as a visualization tool connected to the single model? Absolutely. Can we have some SSRS report, paginated reports? Why not? Ooh, there's a cluster of analysts who just love Tableau. Can they connect to a single model? Yes, they can. Right, so it doesn't matter, right? So again, this idea of seeing it in black or white, like whether they adopt Power BI or not, is not going to help you, and it's not the reality anyway. Most companies end up with that. Tableau, go ahead, walk into Tableau's office, tell me if they don't use Excel. They do. All right, so right, so inside Tableau they use Excel. So there you go. I want to hear some other examples of this leading by hand. And guys, it is so satisfying. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a consultant or inside a company; it's the same thing. It's not fundamentally different. But I want to hear anybody has another experience where they just helped somebody and they went, whoa, kind of like what Steve shared, kind of hold them by the hand.
So Avi, I got a quick example.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
hey,
so
you heard me kind of put Steve on it. Make it as visual for me as possible. Like, what was going on? All that sort of stuff. Yeah.
let me think back then.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, when I first started doing Power BI, I would go to different departments and ask for data.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would put together the visualizations. And then I remember what was really made a huge impression was I would give these presentations. I was like, hey, remember you had this data from this database and this data from this database. And, within minutes, I would pull it all together. And I was like, see what you can do here now.
Yeah.
And I would show them visually the connection, the
But
keys, the links.
can I pause you for a second? So
Yeah.
if you can maybe pick one
Yeah.
story from that. I don't know if you can remember like a specific department or a specific team.
Yeah. So I've got one. Probably can't name which department,
Got it.
but I
So
walked
a
in.
team.
Yeah.
Yep. So got it.
Yeah, of a team. I walked in. I started the meeting. There was a question I remember. Charles, what do you do all day? What is a BI intelligence
Oh,
manager?
wait.
Yeah,
Guys, so that is a fundamental question that everybody should be able to answer.
yeah, yeah,
And I'll admit I've had trouble answering that in huge parts of my career. So carry on. So what do you do all day? Yeah, that's
yeah.
great.
So it was an interesting way to start that meeting. Not everybody was even in there yet, but that's how they chose to start. They invited me, and then they say, "What do you do all day?" And then
Yeah.
I had some visuals, I had some PowerPoint slides. I was like, this tool can connect data from all over the places. And
Uh huh.
I think that things started making sense. And
Yeah.
then somebody reached over the table, said, "Can I log in to some and give you access to some data
Yeah.
sets?" And I
Whoa.
said, "Yeah,
Let's pause it because guys, that is huge, right? So that's the kind of the switch right there, and that is incredible. I love it when that happens. So again, this person is like, okay, but let me see. So cool. So that's a switch. We might come back to this. So can I
yeah,
log in and kind of connect to our data set?
yep." And so I brought it into Power Query, and and then all the tables just showed up, right? All the
Yeah.
names, and they were looking at that, and that's when the jaws just dropped, and they said, let's pick that table and that table and that table.
Yeah.
And so I imported those, and then can we see the data from that table? So then I drag them, and just with implicit measures, I drag them
Yeah.
into the canvas, right?
Yeah.
And jaws just dropped, and then the conversation switched from BI, what is it, to, oh, you can connect this to that table to this, and you can count by this and this and this, and you
Yeah.
already have that on that canvas.
Yeah.
um, and and I remember that was one of three meetings where I got up to leave, and people looked at, they said, "Hold on just a second, Charles.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is incredible work."
Yeah.
They said, "This is just incredible stuff. Thank you for what you've done." And
Yeah.
that has happened multiple times. And I think for me, that was a powerful moment because,
Yeah.
I realized the power of this thing. And I was like, I don't just want it for me now, because if this can do it for me and
Yes.
provide this impact, I want it to provide this for other people and have
Yeah.
other people experience this. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just on this quest to, like, how many people can I get,
Yes.
onto Power BI and keep going with this? Because
Man,
I want other people to
I
have
know.
those meetings and
Yes.
just become the heroes
Yes. Yeah.
in their departments too.
Yeah, man, I know that hunger very well. In fact, I've
Yeah.
had to balance myself. So sometimes I get, there was a phase where I was fixated on like the subscriber number and so forth. I'm glad I'm over that phase now because I keep coming back. I'm like, I don't really care. It's not about the numbers, but can I really make an impact? But yeah, that drive, it's like a fire burning inside. So I feel that in
Right.
you, mate. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So folks, if you notice that I wrote, so yeah, these guys actually can't see my screen. That's okay. If it helps us focus on the discussion. But you on YouTube are kind of watching our discussion and seeing me take notes. And I called out the switch. So one switch I called out to Charles as well, which is they're listening to Charles talk about BI can do this, BI can do that, and obviously he spoke well because the next switch happened. So actually this is really cool. So a lot of times I get this question like, hey, how do I convince somebody about Power BI? How do I convince them? So again, you guys are seeing this already. Why we were talking about bottom up, and I really feel that Trojan horse approach, right? I mean, if you have an insider in a good way, right? Who's advocating for this? This is so much easier than a consultant walking in. In a way, they're questioning Charles as well. Like, Charles, what do you do all day, mate? I mean, I don't think you're doing anything. I mean, so maybe I want your job. And so they're questioning it. So of course, the questioning, the skepticism goes way higher for an external consultant, even if you have some credibility. So often when I walk in, people know me, but even with that, I have to walk over some barriers. So internal, um, that is still there in some way, as you saw. Like, hey, Charles, what do you do all day? But it's lower. Now, of course, sometimes dynamics can be different, so watch out for that. But let's start there. So it starts off there, but then Charles talks about it, and clearly he did a good job of that. So there's going to be a little bit of talking. But I would say that I try to keep that to the minimum as possible. And then, of course, the switch. And this is a good thing. So if you recognize this, and again, a lot of these things apply. A customer, in this case, Charles, an internal customer, right? I mean, if you're as a consultant working with a client, it will work the same. Actually, let me. Oh, cool. So this switch where they say, can we do this? Can you just connect to our data set? That this is huge, and I wait for that. I anticipate that. I'm like, oh yes, finally, yes. Let's do the data. And folks, there's another one which is worth calling out here. So and I love it. I love what I do, and here is a big reason why. Here's a huge reason why. Because of what I just heard. So Jaws talked about, I pulled the tables in Query Editor and the jaws dropped. And I was like, what? And here's the thing, it's easy to become jaded, right? I mean, I've been in Power BI for so long. I've done it for so long. I sometimes do some things for my client, just as Charles' experience, where you pull something in the Query Editor and you don't expect a reaction. It's nothing. It's right. I mean, the good stuff hasn't even started yet. But what did Charles say? His jaws drop. So again, you don't know what situation they're in. You don't know what mess they're in. You don't know what kind of gremlins they're dealing with. I mean, frankly, a lot of people just put in a closet. Don't. Yeah, it's right. So maybe they just for where they are right now, being able to just simply reach out to a data set and like connect and see those tables, that is incredible. So yeah, don't discount that. And again, I'm always glad that I get to revisit that along with the journey of my students, right? So that was pretty awesome. That is good. You may not get all that reaction all the time, depending on who you're talking to, but that was pretty awesome, right? So query editor tables. Now you're in real stuff. Pick tables, and then of course drag them onto the canvas. That was, I'm sure, as he mentioned, another kind of jaw-dropping moment. Like, whoa, you can do that. So there is a lot of incredible awesomeness in Power BI, and it's not hard to do this. How do you do that? Oh, this is awesome kind of stuff. Worst case scenario, my typical consulting assignments would be 1 to 3 days. And I was pretty confident that in 1 to 3 days on site, I would build something that they had never before thought. They never thought was like possible, right? Okay, fine. It may take you a week or so, right? But you can definitely get that moment where they go, whoa, this is real. And then I think there was this other switch. So this is good. So earlier they were like, Charles, what do you do? Next switch, like, can you try it? I mean, now they're considering it, but now they're in a way almost fully on board, because now you're on the ship with them. You're together. You're a team. They're not questioning you. They want to look at it kind of from your eyes, and they want to look ahead with you. I say, well, gosh, Charles, you showed us this, but what about this? What about that? Can we do this? Can we do that? That is an awesome moment as well, as Charles described, right? So boy, that was really cool, and I'm really glad I had you kind of get like visual and specific. Man, I got a lot out of that. Thank you, Charles.
Yep.
Whew. All right, so let's see. Did that take any notes for me to kind of come back to? That was really cool. So the short version here. Oh, do we? I heard somebody, but the audio seemed a little garbled. Oh, Anthony, yeah, your audio is a little garbled. I don't know what's going on. So, yeah, it sounds like Darth Vader. That's weird. we might get this on. Okay, so how do we fix this? I don't know. Try to turn your audio off or on, or there might be an option to join audio using your phone. Yes, there is like a computer audio and then switch to phone audio. You may dial in. Cool. So we'll wait for Anthony. And yeah, so let me scan through the notes here. So let me where is that stuff? Oops. All right, guys. So guys, I realize I'm missing out on some of the discussion on the chat. We'll catch up with you. How are we doing on time? Oh, we have over an hour. Great. So we'll say, folks who joined for this, I definitely want to thank everybody who joined on the phone. and this was I couldn't have hoped for better. So, folks, to give you a little bit of the background, we've had what we call in like internally in Team Avi, we call it panel discussions. So we've had this in the past. Topics have been agile BI, topics have been future of Power BI. We have done women in Power BI, but they were a bit heavy-handed on our side. But last time, so Ken, I don't know, let's see if he's on. Oh, Ken dropped off. Oh gosh, yeah. I want to thank him because Ken kicked it off. Because I don't remember the topic we were discussing, but Ken just was on the call and said, "Hey, Avi, what about this? What about that?" And there was this really awesome discussion. And I guess it was awesome that today Ken was the one who kicked off like the discussion as well after I spoke. So we have this idea that, hey, let's just have these awesome people join and kind of have an impromptu discussion. So great. All right. So Anthony, yeah, you can try again whenever you like for the audio. I don't know. This is so weird. It is it's still the Darth Vader voice. Yeah. So oh gosh, yeah. See if you can switch to phone audio, kind of call in from your phone. All right. So it's over an hour. Let's kind of recap, and then we will go to the chat. We'll take some Power BI questions. We'll keep having fun and hanging out here. So boy, there's so much stuff here. What are the big challenges? I think there is something about, I don't know, if we were kind of talk about kind of the mindset, right? So there's one which is the way they see things, right? So, oh gosh, I'm too abstracted. Let's actually.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Oh, thank God. Yeah, and thanks for rescuing me. I was kind of stumbling through this a little bit, so give me
Okay,
time to catch
okay.
up.
So we talked about all these examples from Steve and from Charles, and you gave an example when you talked to a client, but I think those switches, there is an even prior switch to that.
Okay.
When the client realizes, no, I'm not happy with what I'm doing now, and I need help.
Yeah, that's a good point. So there is a solution over there. I was just reading a book recently which talked about these 5 stages. It's 5 stages. So let me bring it up and let me see. Okay, so one is stages completely unaware. Another one is problem aware, which I think is Anthony's talking about. Then is solution aware, then product aware, and then there is the most aware. I think there's another word for this. So if you think about it, there are folks who are clueless that they even have a problem. And I'll admit, I was in that camp for a long time as well. I thought I was doing great in Excel, and now I look back, I'm like, gosh, I was, again, those symptoms of you spend a week to refresh a monthly report. And now I see it with others. Like I'm going talking to clients or prospects, and they say, "Oh no, Avi, we're okay with that." I'm like, "You don't have." Like I would go in and I would be talking about, "Oh, you can have automatic refresh," and they would say, "Oh, it just takes us a week to refresh it. It's not a big deal, right?" So these guys are like completely clueless. I don't know how to help them, right? So then Anthony's talking about the switch, which is great. So problem aware, they're like, gosh, it takes us a week to refresh this monthly report, right? So something like that. So again, I do want, I pick up from there onwards. Problem aware. I say, okay, there's a problem. And then solution aware is, so they kind of know the solution, but they may not know how to get there, but do not know how to get there. And again, this can be where they're looking at Tableau and Domo and all that stuff, right? So they're like, yep, if we could just have a single report which told us how our business is doing, something like that, right? and then they finally decide the product. Let's go with Power BI. Say, okay, we need Power BI, and I guess the last one is the most aware. Again, I picked it up from a website. I've heard different terms for this, but I would say they kind of know exactly what they want, right? So let's put it that. Exactly what they want. Exactly is too hard a word, but kind of know what they want, right? So know, or maybe how to do it. They know how to proceed. So obviously, at this point, the most aware, either you're a student in my program or you're a consulting client, right? And of course, right? Or if you're talking about somebody inside the company, then you're working with them, right? So or you know that, oh yeah, you know that you will be working on this project. So that's kind of that stage where it's imminent that you're gonna start working with them. And so forth. So completely unaware, I can't think of anything right now. I mean, I hope somebody shakes them by the shoulder or something, right? So if they don't even know they have a problem, then I'm not sure. I have no idea. If you're aware of the problem, then there's hope. So yeah, that's what Anthony brought us to light. Like, do they know? Do they realize there is an issue? So Anthony, thanks for that. Great. So folks, I guess that's a good way to recap, I think. So what I'll say is try to think of, and again, doesn't matter if you are a consultant working with clients or you're a company, right? I mean, if company, the key difference is your clients are internal, right? So so focus on moving people. So if you're trying to drive change, what I call the Power BI pioneer, and we have many in this group, of course, pretty much every single person on the call, every single person who spoke is in this position, whether they realize it or not, right? So for one, you don't need a freaking title. You don't need a title to lead, to be a leader. If you don't believe me, go listen to Simon Sinek. Right? He has this beautiful thing about there are people who lead and there are people who lead. So there are people who lead because they're leaders just by the virtue of the title they hold. Oh, I'm the CEO. Everybody better listen to me. And that's what Charles was talking about earlier. This fear-driven, this drop-down. He said, again, not always, but it can be this fear-driven. Thou shall use this, right? So, of course, in my Excel life, the BP era before Power BI, I saw this many times. Right? It would be this multi-year cycle. Right, every 3 or 4 years, this commandment would come down, right? Like, thou shall use this new BI tool, and we'll be like, ah, shit, right? And then we will figure out how to export it to Excel and carry on a merry way, right? So there are those leaders, and then there was those who lead, And I like this one thing. I think it was Simon Sinek who was talking about it. He said a good way to tell if you're a leader or not is to look back, my friend. Who's following you, right? And man, I have worked with people, and I once said this to my wife in a conversation, and she was shocked. And I said, man, this guy Rockney, he's amazing. I would follow him over a cliff. Those are my words. Now, of course, probably I wouldn't do it literally, but you know what I meant, right? I was like, dude, I mean, I totally believe in him, right? So those are leaders. Was he my manager? No, he was not. He was not my manager, right? But I said I would follow him over a cliff, right? So Power BI Pioneer, you don't need a freaking title. We've had CFOs in our program who are Power BI pioneers, who are leading their companies to this new era, and we've had people who worked at the call center, and they were called over to the headquarters, like HQ called them, like, hey, gosh, we heard about this Power BI thing you're doing. Can you show that to us? Can we have that too? Can you do it for us? Can you show us how we can do it? Right? So it doesn't need a title, but focus on how much you focus. So again, it could be internal, it could be external, it doesn't matter. Focus on these stages. Completely unaware, again, unless you guys have some ideas, I would let them be. if your company is completely unaware, maybe try to make them aware, but I don't know. I mean, sometimes switching jobs is a possibility, right? So let's assume that they're at least there, and most people are, even if they don't admit. Oh, actually, Charles, can I call you out on that? There was this beautiful story that you shared for one of the clients. Oh gosh, I hope it was you, where you were talking to them and they said, Oh yeah, they had a. Was it you or maybe I'm mixing up somebody? Where they had a custom coded solution for reports, which is basically they were writing like C sharp or some sort of code for reports, and you walked in or somebody walked in, the consultant walks in, and they say that yeah, everything's fine. And then the consultant asked, said, okay, cool. Well, let me talk about the. And then the question was like, well, so how long does it take you to
Oh, yes.
add a chart or something, some element?
Yeah,
And it was you, right?
that was
And
me.
wait. So let me give the answer. It was that it takes forever or something like
Yeah,
that, wasn't it?
yeah, yes.
That is like mind blowing stuff, right? So guys, again, you walk in, they say, nah, everything's fine. What are you reporting? Yep,
Yep.
we got all the reports we need. Yep, it's all working well, right? And again, I mean, when I hear somebody doing a custom coded solution, I'm like, why would you? That's like I don't know, like digging your own well or something, like no, we don't want to hook into the plumbing system of the city. We just want to dig our own well. So why would you do that, right? Uh, but again, they didn't admit it, but again, they felt it, they knew it. So maybe sometimes it's about asking the right question. So actually, this is really good. And Charles, thanks to you, thanks to this example, I think I just realized that the distinction between unaware and problem aware may be simply the question that is being asked and the way it's being asked.
Avi, one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing is
Yeah.
what was interesting was the question about how long it took to change something actually
Yeah.
didn't come from me. It was
Yeah.
somebody else within the company
Great.
that knew the answer,
Yeah.
and they knew what was going on, and
Ouch.
they were my supporter inside, and they knew, and though they asked that question
Yeah.
for me
So
because they knew where I
yeah.
was going.
Yeah. So that is really good too. So question from audience. Hold on, let me. I think there's a lot in there. And I think, and again, it doesn't matter if you're employee, consultant, doesn't matter, guys. If you're talking to somebody and you're trying to move them through these stages, this is the small stuff, right? This is the fun stuff. I mean, writing DAX measures, guys, over time, like more and more, a lot more people are gonna know DAX and so forth, right? So, but this is the good stuff. So, what I'm kind of the way I saw it was, and Charles didn't. Maybe it wasn't quite that way, but in this situation, but there are going to be situations where you have 20 people in the room, and you ask a question, and let's say the same question, like, oh, is everything good with the reporting? And maybe two or three people speak, and they say, yeah, it's fine. We have all the reports we need. They could be deluded. They could genuinely think that that's the case, or they may not want to admit whatever's going on with them. But it's possible that there are some other members who just, I don't know, afraid to speak or something, maybe they'd be nice or something, right? Where they're not kind of speaking up, right? So I'm glad it happened this way in case of Charles, but maybe I'm finding out a way between completely unaware and problem aware. So what I'm feeling is that most companies have the problems that I can help them with Power BI. I got messy data, multiple sources, da da da. Almost everybody has a problem, right? So earlier I was kind of throwing up my hands, it's like completely unaware. I don't know how to help, but I'm feeling that it's more about the questions you ask, the way you ask it, and who you ask the question to. Like, who do you pull into the discussion, right? I mean, if one person is answering, and again, internal, external doesn't matter, right? We'd say, hey, I would like to hear from some of the folks in the room. What do you guys think? Simon, you haven't spoken. What's your take, right? I mean, call them out, right? So sometimes, whatever, they could be shy, introvert, or whatever. They could be hesitant. Call them out on that. So, and yeah, again, this is soft stuff, and it's worthwhile. Of course, you don't get in day one. First, I'm pretty sure the first consulting engagement I had, and whatever the first team I approached inside Microsoft, I wasn't like this. I'm sure, hey, would you like some Power BI help or something silly like that? I'm sure I must have been like that, but I think you can definitely evolve. And so we were talking about what Ken said earlier: teach them to be brave. These things are not hard. I think these can be broken down and learned, and yeah, and before you know it, you would know exactly the question to ask. So the notes that I took was that this completely unaware to problem aware, and maybe even to push them deeper into problem aware, right? Really make them feel the pain. Is focus on the questions that you're asking, the way you're asking, and who you're asking, and kind of include everyone or include more voices. Cool. So we're gonna kind of pause there for that one. So again, we've talked about completely unaware, problem aware. So we've talked about those two, and then there are solution aware, which is like, oh yeah, we have a problem, and this is mostly a comparison, kind of a product comparison kind of space. We wouldn't go that in this discussion. That will open the whole Pandora's box of Power BI versus Tableau versus Domo versus ClickView and all that. Of course, you know the right answer, folks. Come on. Just kidding. Just kidding. And yeah, it's those tools are good. The marketplace is big. If Tableau is right for you, more power to you, my friend. Full speed ahead, right? So, but we wouldn't talk too much about that. Of course, we've covered that a little bit here. We've covered that in another Talk Power BI. I don't know. Maybe we will do a all-out product comparison Talk Power BI episode. We do have quite a few members in a Learn Power BI program who've had experience with exposure with a lot of tools, Power BI, Tableau, ClickView, Domo, all of that. So that would be interesting, but we'll save that for some other day. I'll say my main experience has been with Power BI. So it's Tableau is the closest other one. Of course, there's been a long history of Microsoft tools, Excel, SSRS, and all that. So solution aware, product comparison, we'll skip that for now. And once there are product aware, they're like Power BI. I think then it's the switches that Charles talked about, where they say, cool, right? So they're kind of product aware at this point. They've gone through these stages, and then they're saying, cool, connect this to our data. Switch one. Cool, this is what it looks like. Oh, this is awesome. And then, of course, by the end of the call, they were like, whoa, what else can it do? And then you're talking about pretty much the next step. So we're going to wrap up this discussion here. I want to thank all of the panelists who took part in the discussion today. Folks, if you like this, then let us know in the comments. If you liked maybe a specific speaker, call them out. Like, hey, this person said this thing, and I really resonated with it, because we are gonna run based on that. So if you like this, enjoyed this, then we're gonna try to do more of this. If not, if you don't kind of see your comments supporting it, then I would have second thoughts. I would say that I definitely enjoyed this discussion. And one of my students taught me this phrase: to teach is to learn twice. And that's where I feel incredibly lucky, because I'm always learning. I'm always learning from my students. So again, thank you for everybody who spoke up and shared their thoughts, shared their wisdom, their experience. That is incredibly valuable. All right, cool. Let's see. Hey, hold on, guys. So let's see. Cool. So let's switch modes here, and let's see if we can answer any Power BI questions, if we can get you over any roadblocks. All right, let's go in. So what I'm gonna do is zoom. I'm gonna share my screen now. Share screen 2. Perfect. All right, folks. So let's do. So first of all, let's open it up to folks on the phone. Those are our Learn Power BI students. If you guys have any questions that you would like to ask, doesn't have to be specifically Power BI. It could be about kind of the career around Power BI, or deployment, or of course could be a follow-up question about what we discussed today. If you have any of those, just unmute yourself and ask. And meanwhile, I'll give you some time to come up, find the mute button if you need to, and we will check in with our YouTube chat, folks. So folks, we're trying out a new system today. We had earlier, it was a little bit weird because we had our students join using GoToMeeting, and the followers on YouTube, they joined using Zoom, and it was a bit crazy. I do love GoToMeeting. I'm a huge fan, but for this time we're trying out Zoom, but we wanted our Learn Power BI students to join first. That's always how we run these calls. So there is a password to that. So we're gonna open up the lines for all our followers. I'm gonna just share the password and so that you can sign in soon. But I want to just see if there are any other questions we can handle before that. So wow, lots of reaction about consultants. Jimenez Vallejo. I hope I'm saying your name right. Hello from Ecuador. Folks liked what Charles had to say. Brad had a comment earlier, currently comparing Zoom data to Power BI using SSAS Tabular. The devil is in the details. There's a reason Microsoft solutions are usually industry standards. I'm a huge fan of Microsoft Power BI for sure, but I would say, yeah, it's good to compare. Go out, compare the tools for the value. The one thing that you shouldn't ignore is this. So, I said we're not going to talk about product comparison, but I'm just going to add in one little thing based on Brad's comment here. So, what is the time right now? 10:35. Okay, cool. So 10:35, product comparison. And this was Brad J on YouTube talking about that. Power BI versus other. So definitely compare the tools. But when you're comparing, think about how many years of Excel experience do you have? Right? And how many years of Excel, how many cumulative years of experience does your team have? And my next question would be, so when I ask this question, the answers I get are 15 years, something like that, 7 years, 3 years, 5 years. And then when I ask this second question, then it'll like, dude, I don't know, 100 plus easily, right? 100 plus years, in a small team. And my next question is, do you really want to throw it all away and start over? Right? Because, or do you want to use a tool that works seamlessly with Excel? And you know what that tool is? It's by the same company. There's a clue right there. Microsoft Excel. Oops. Right, so so I would say consider that. It's by the same company, and things weren't always the same. There was a time when things didn't really work well together between these two, but kudos to both the Excel team, the Office team, the Power BI team on working together on putting these old notions, the old Microsoft notions. So old Microsoft, there were so many cartoons and memes about how there's so much competition, they're like kingdoms and so forth. That is not the new Microsoft. That's not how they're operating. There's amazing teamwork and collaboration. Are there things that could be better? Sure. Yes. And that's why they have this ideas.powerbi.com site, and they do listen, right? And of course, they can't they can't. They are listening to not just kind of you and me. They're listening to thousands of users. They have to evaluate it based on that. But yeah, so there are lots and lots of scenarios that this team has actively worked really, really hard to make them work seamlessly together. My best scenario, of course, is those who've gone through the tutorial know about that, where you create a single Power BI model, right? So single model, and you connect Power BI reports to it, and you connect Excel as well, and that's pretty easy, right? So that's just one scenario. So cool. So I'll see that. Let's see if there are any other questions. So. Yeah, so there was something about pricing consultants. Are they worth it? They charge so much. Liver had a comment. Most people want to succeed if there is no risk. That's never going to happen. There's always risk. You got to wait for yourself. No risk means no reward. That's simple. No reward, my friends. Yeah, that's just the way life works. All right, cool. Vincent had a question on relative dates. Yeah, we might open the phone lines. If it's simple enough to ask, then ask it right away in the chat box. Otherwise, wait for the phone lines. Brittany, good to hear from you from St. Louis. Just found my tutorials this morning. This is day 2. How exciting. That is awesome. So Jim was talking a little bit about how to learn Power BI, private tutoring from Power BI pros. Cool. So Jim, I'll if you're looking to learn Power BI, you come to the right place. Just kidding. So I'll share some of my thoughts around learning Power BI. Like how do I become? No, I want you to become a pro, right? So how become a Power BI pro? So again, you heard the sentiment, and we all share that. I tend to attract that kind of people in my program, right? So you heard Charles and Steve, right, and Ken talk about that. Where I don't want it for myself. I want to empower others. I want them to feel awesome and incredible and do this amazing stuff. So, so do you need private tutoring? I don't know. I think the emphasis on like one person is too much. Like, am I the trainer here? Well, I try, right? I mean, I teach. I have a course. But there's a phrase that I really love, which is, who's the smartest person in the room? Okay, cool. Let's go back here. Oh, wait. There's my meeting. All right, so who's the smartest person in the room? Smartest person in the room. It's the room itself. Right, so I believe in kind of group wisdom. I believe in community. I bringing everybody together. I mean, anything that you could have learned from me, the experience today, I think it's plain to everybody, was far better having these other voices. It added to that. It made it richer. It made it more valuable. Right, so why not that? So I'm a huge believer in kind of community. Right, so before that, I do, so I'll say maybe the 4 things that I believe in. Core concepts, maybe that's just 3. I don't know how many. The core concepts, community, and learning by doing. Let's go with that. There is another one, I think, lead. Right, so core concepts, a lot of people are learning on their own through the jigsaw puzzle of YouTube and internet, including my videos, my friends. It's great. It's great learning, but it's, you get all these pieces and you're trying to put it all together and some pieces are missing. It's not fun, right? So, and it doesn't, let you focus on the core concepts. A lot of times, a lot of material. So people start thinking that Power BI is kind of like PowerPoint for reports or something. The real stuff is under the hood, right? So you got to focus on the core concepts. And the good thing is it's just two things: query editor and data model. Now, of course, when I say data model, that you got to focus on kind of the relationships plus DAX measures and all that, right? So there are maybe three things, right? So, but that's it. Those are core concepts, and you focus on that. So again, community, huge believer in that. I think we will learn much better as a group rather than, oh, I'm just gonna, Avi's gonna teach me and whatever, some other pro, right? So community, that element is always there. And then I'm a huge believer in learning by doing, and community kind of plays, and these play together, right? So you learn some core concepts from a course, from a guided course, right? So and that's what Avi can give you, Avi or some other whoever you trust, right? Whichever Power BI trainer you trust, and then you go and apply it. And maybe these are in not quite the right order. So you go and apply it, learning by doing, and then you're gonna get stuck. And that's where, the community is going to help you, and you learn in this agile approach. That is the kind of the one overarching word that I use for this, which is the agile learning, right? So agile method, agile learning, right? So Power BI is agile BI. Why not learn it the same way? Learn it in these quick cycles. So of course, folks who have heard me talk about it, I talk about this learn, do, fail, win cycle, right? So you go in these quick cycles, and the faster you can go through them, and the more times you can go through them, the better it is, right? So that's how you proceed. That's how you become PowerBIPro. And yeah, right? So and there's that other element, the lead part. I wouldn't go into that now. So cool, right? So, and of course, those who are in my program, they kind of know. So if you just go to learnpowerbi.com, it has some information about the way it's structured. So, of course, you don't have to sign up for my program. You can follow the same approach. Follow the agile learning approach, and that's going to speed up your journey. That's going to make you a Power BI pro. Cool. All right, let's see. All right, cool. Yes, nice. So Resinure was asking how much time. So folks, the way the community is built is for the Learn Power BI. We have we have the student community. So of course we have the kind of the YouTube community, right? And then we have our student community. So that is for the courses. And again, just go to learnpowerbi.com, and that has all the information about my course if you're interested there. All right, cool. So I want to address one of, who was it? I scrolled past it. Oh yeah, Resinure is asking about how much time to give. That's a good question. 10:47, or how much time to devote to learn Power BI? That's a good question. Well, maybe I'll give you a few answers. So for one, how I talked about the core concepts. So my core course, and let's see if we can take a quick tour here. Yeah, so the core course is just 6 modules, and it focuses on the core concepts. The main course. Why am I calling it the core course? Right. So Zero to Dashboard gives you kind of a lay of the land. Now, a condensed version of this is available on YouTube. So on YouTube, if you go on my page, the main tutorial, that is a shorter version of this. But it basically gives you the lay of the land, just lets you experience all the pieces and how they fit in, right? But then we dive in, and we focus on the query editor, we focus on relationships, we focus on DAX, we focus on visuals. Now, this is a pretty compact course, and last one is PowerBI.com platform. And again, the heart of it is right here, right? There's some good stuff in visualizations as well, and of course here too. This one's nice, but yeah, that's the heart of it. That's a pretty compact course. You know how long the course is? It's only about 10 plus hours. And I never want to change it. If I'm focusing on core concepts, I don't want this to be an encyclopedia, reference manual, and so forth. Like, oh, there's every function in DAX and how to use it. That'd be silly. Guys, we don't learn that way, you know? So it's pretty compact. Maybe it's gone up now. Maybe it's 11 hours, but it's compact, and I'm always going to keep it compact. So I'm very wary of scope creep because I believe in the 80-20 rule. 20% core concepts are going to give you 80% of the results. Now the thing is that not everybody believes this. So some students join in and say, "Avi, man, this was too short, and you didn't cover this." And you know, the funny thing is, here's what happens. They ask me a question like, "Avi, I couldn't solve this question," and you know, I mean, they don't say it that way, but let me just exaggerate and put it that way. Like, "Oh yeah, your course didn't help me. Like, you know, I went through all this, and I still can't solve it." And when there's an opportunity on a group call or something like that, I have them share the screen, and I've a few times that has happened that I've gone through the problem with them, and they were not applying any of the core concepts. Right? So I would see. So of course, the first thing, if you've seen me on these calls, is that I asked people to show the relationship diagram, and I see it, and it's a flat table, and I'm like, what's going on, dude? Right? I mean, what is going on? What is the data? Where's the lookup table? So I see stuff like that, or it's like a relationship mess, a whole mess, right? So again, for me, the default is one directional relationship, one to many. But I'm seeing many to many. I'm seeing like bidirectional. I'm seeing the dotted lines, right? Inactive relationships, all that sort of stuff. It's messy, and I'm like, dude, what is that? It's just like data threw up on your model. You didn't like create it. And of course, a lot of times it's happening automatically. Auto detect relationship. I'm not a huge fan of that, guys. Turn it off if you can, all right? Because that results in this. So, and of course, for a lot of other stuff, they're just not following the core concept, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm not going to hold it to you. It's, you know, it takes practice. But again, it's always a reminder to me that those things are valuable, right? So often then people come to me with like a messy relationship, and then it took me some time to just understand like, what's going on. And then I said, oh, okay. You go back to the basics and it's solved. And of course, you've seen me happen with Mahindra. Check the Mahindra. How do I spell his name? M-A-H... Mahindra, yes. So go back to those questions. That was an incredible experience for me because it started off with this, and you know, so this is what I really enjoy, right? I mean, a lot of times people come to me with this seemingly very complex DAX problem, and that's what Mahindra came up with. Let's say, Avi, help me solve this DAX. And I did. I tried to help him solve the DAX, and it got even more complicated. Like he had some measure, and like, oh, let's add this. But guess what? Then I kept feeling it, and again, I mean, you see how it works, right? I've been doing this for years. I should have been better, smarter, more braver to acknowledge that or call it out, but I wasn't. I was dropping these hints to Mahindra. Okay, Mahindra, I have a feeling that there's something going on here, and I'm pretty sure if you go watch the recording, you would hear me kind of, voicing those doubts, but I didn't really like act on it, didn't hold on to it. And I think I've spoken to Mahindra like 3 times, once on a class call, twice on Talk Power BI. But in the final call, I was, I think a little bit frustrated at that point. I'm like, it needs to be solved like this. So yeah, we went back to kind of the basics and say, hey, this would be the approach to solve it. And when we did it, and I knew the answer already, there was no complex DAX. The DAX was a sum function. And I've seen it happen a few times where they're doing something really messed up, and it's, if you just do it right, follow the core concepts, then, build the model and all that, then, DAX is much less complex. Sometimes it can be simplified to a sum function. Cool. So, all right. So this shouldn't take you long, but then of course, then there's a practice part, which, what I say is for my members, there are 6 modules. I say, guys, try to complete it in 6 weeks. And again, that's just a guideline. It's kind of a self-paced program. So I'll say, and again, you can take what I'm saying and just follow that model. You don't have to join my course. If you're interested in information on learnpowerbi.com. But yeah, so you can follow the same. So maybe it doesn't matter where you're learning, how you're learning from. Give yourself 6 weeks and break it down exactly like this. Oh, week 1, I'm just going to get a lay of the land, right? Week 2, I'm going to focus on credit editor. Week 3, I'm going to focus on relationships. Week 4, I'm going to focus on DAX, visuals, PowerBIPro.com. Done. Boom, my friend, right? So 6 weeks, where are you now? So I have this thing where if you get better every day, a little bit better, a little bit better every single day, where would we be in a year? Man, I love I love hiking, but I also love hiking for this reason. It's always, every time I go hiking and we climb and it's like and you not even at the top, you're like halfway up or something like that, and you look back, and if you can see a parking lot, the cars look like so small and people are ants. You're like, whoa, I did that, right? That's the power of it, my friend, right? So this is what my friend and mentor calls forward progress. Of course, that's a sport analogy. It comes from American football, I think. I mean, maybe it's in other sports as well, but that's where I heard it. Where you're supposed to gain 10 yards, and it doesn't matter if you gain 10 or 20 or 50, but man, did you gain 3? I mean, did you gain 1 yard? I mean, if you gain 1 yard and 3 and then 7 and then 2 and 5, right? And you see how it goes, right? And before you know it, it's touchdown, baby, right? So focus on forward progress. And so see if you can. So again, videos, we break it down and it's all bite size. It's like I try to keep it like 7 minutes or less. So people have said, I can consume it on the go and so forth, right? So get a little bit of learning every single day. And we'll talk about application and that sort of stuff, right? And forward progress, so just focus on that, right? To just stay motivated. And then there's this thing where if you fall off. So we're so hard on ourselves. I mean, I hear this all the time. We're like, oh, I should have started it 2 years ago. Oh, I had heard about Power Pivot, never really acted on it, never really learned it. I should have back then, 2009, whatever, 2010, or versions of that. Who cares, right? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the next best time to plant a tree is today, all right? There's no other time, right? I mean, if you want, right? So if you didn't plant it 20 years ago, if you planted it 20 years ago, great, you're enjoying the fruit of that, right? So if somebody learned Power BI many years ago, then great, they're seeing the success of that if you do things right. Otherwise, do it today, right? So don't care about starting. And watch out for, so folks, I'm a huge believer in mindset. Words are powerful. They're incredibly powerful. So be careful of the words you use. So often new people jump on this and they say, hey, I'm just a newbie. Or some version of that. I'm just getting started. It's okay to say that. Just remove the freaking word just. There's no just about it, right? I mean, you are incredibly lucky. So, of course, we've had, right, I mean, folks who are in college and that sort of stuff. And it's like, I'm just a newbie. I'm like, do you realize how jealous I am of you right now? That you're finding Power BI so early in your career? That what kind of trajectory it's going to put you on? Right? How, and of course, we've seen examples with the students, right? So Alp, one of our students, a finance rotation program, steps into finance rotation programs kind of for the rookies, right? I mean, that's where they start. But he was like head and shoulders above the rest of the crowd because he would step in and he wasn't like the rookie kind of learning stuff. He was doing what Charles was talking about. Like, okay, I see you have this data. Let me see what I can do in Power BI, right? So, it's remove that word, and you're in an incredible position. Of course, if you have, some of you have heard my rocket launch analogy. I wouldn't go to that now, but that's the way I see it, right? So the way you see it is powerful. So starting, so Resonure is seemingly over that. So next thing that's going to happen in your journey is you might fall off. And of course, we have that happen with our students. They're like, oh, Avi, man, this happened. I got a new job. We've seen everything. We've seen new babies. We've seen new jobs and everything in between, right? So, and they're like, oh, it's been 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, whatever. And I haven't touched Power BI, right? And so folks, of course, I talk about my mindset. I would also recommend you pick up some sort of meditation, And if you can, start your daily routine with that. That's what I do every morning. Right. So, and it can be short. It can be a few minutes. It can be 7 minutes, 5 minutes. It can be even be 60 seconds. We do that sometimes in our team. In fact, when we have our team meetings, we start with a 60-second meditation. We just close your eyes and that's it. Just, and you don't have to do anything. Just, well, actually, there are lots of different techniques to meditate, of course. Just pick yours. Go out there, Google it, YouTube it, whatever. Join a course, right? Figure it out what works best for you. A simple technique that I use is called box breathing. That's really, really simple, really easy to learn. And you can go Google that and you'll pick it up in a few minutes. Right, so yeah, 60 seconds, we just, kind of anchor yourself in the present moment. Frankly, I've thought about kicking off our Talk Power BI calls with 60 seconds. Guys, let's just be present. It's so powerful. It is so incredibly mind-blowingly powerful. Try it. Hey, if you try it with your team meetings, and of course, I don't know, suggest you're a manager. If you're not a manager, if you're a manager, try it out. 60 seconds. We're gonna just close our eyes and say you can meditate however you want. Just or not meditate. I mean, close your eyes, not close your eyes. Doesn't matter, right? I mean, just 60 seconds. We're gonna be quiet. But yeah, if people do meditate, then yeah, the way they want. Just and the goal is to be. What is the goal? Man, the goal is to be 100% present. Because we rarely are. Do you catch yourself during the day? And of course, since I've started meditating, I catch myself all the time. If you're mostly in the past or the future, and unfortunately, it's always kind of fear-driven, and it's not always. Of course, you can have fond memories and whatever, some plans for the future. I'm going on vacation, something like that. But often it's worry, it's guilt, something like that, right? So it's hard, right? So I want to be 100% present. So just that 60 seconds, just frankly, I don't know. Maybe that's just like one deep breath. There's a speaker that I follow who talks about this, who talks about how important this is. So this is controversial, but his theory is that cigarettes are not addictive. What they're addicted to is this, right? And I know I'm not gonna say I agree with that. I'm like, what, right? But I get his other point. He talks about how important that deep breath is. Oh yeah, I mean, so he's saying that cigarette smoking, yeah, they love that. So the way he says it is that when is the other time when you breathe like that? We don't, right? So yeah, deep breaths can be powerful. So yeah, it could be 60 seconds, it could be one deep breath. Like, I'm here, I'm now, I'm fully present. So powerful, right? So, and words have power. So you can repeat that to yourself. I'm fully 100% present with you, right? So, cool, right? So meditation, right? So where's that story going? The story is going. So when we would meditate, one way is to focus on our breathing, and you would notice that, man, you're gonna find yourself, oh shoot, for the past 5 minutes or whatever, you're probably not gonna have a sense of time. But man, I was thinking about something else. I was thinking about what are the future and my job, And what is your task at that point? What is your task at that point when you fall off? Now, this is what we really do. We beat ourselves up. I can't do this. This is so hard. Long list of things, right? And sometimes we do it kind of consciously. Sometimes it's just, you feel this anger. And again, that's just you were talking about the stages of awareness. It goes for the internal journey too. Right? So you may not see these thoughts because you're just not aware, but they're there. So you may experience it not as thoughts, but as this feeling, this angst, right? You really physically feel it inside, right? So it feels bad, like, And if you are aware of your thoughts, then you would see the thoughts you're thinking, and they're not pretty thoughts. So like, yeah, I'm worth shit, I can't do this, all of that sort of. I can never do this, right? So, and we extend it, so we make it bigger, right? So let's, I can never learn Power BI, and then we make it even bigger. It's like, I'm not good at learning anything. I can never learn anything, all of that sort of stuff. So again, I'm kind of exaggerating this a little bit, but again, you may not feel it this way. You may feel it as kind of a heaviness or inside, or you just don't feel good. Depends on which stage of awareness you're in, right? But that's not your job. when you fall off, my friend, and you are going to fall off, we all fall off, is to get back on. That's it. Now, I will say that having a community around you really helps. So that's what I tell my students. Hey, so they say, oh, I haven't done it for 6 months, 1 year. I say, hey, do me a favor. Go to a student community. Say this. Say that, hey, folks, sorry, I haven't been, kind of online. I haven't been posting. I've been a little inactive for the past 6 months, 1 year, 3 months, 3 weeks, whatever, right? I'm back on now. Right? I'm back on now. And as a bonus, you can commit to something. You can say, I'm going to complete one lesson. Could be small, right? Start small. Or I don't know, if you want ambitious, like, oh yeah, I'm going to build a new dashboard that I've always thought about, that I've been thinking about, right? So yeah, that's where community can help. Help in a big way. Cool. So yeah. So time. So yeah. Core concepts shouldn't take long. 6 weeks you can do that. Stuff is gonna happen. Stuff is gonna get in the way. Don't let it. Starting was a problem. Don't let it. Right. Just start, please. Right. You just get started. Minimum viable product. You wouldn't talk about that, right? So those are the roadblocks I see, and then I see people just kind of fall off. Don't let that happen to you. So the other part, of course, is the application. That one is kind of open-ended. You can spend as much time as you want there. You can spend 2 hours. You can spend 10 hours. So Steve Ross, our co-host, moderator on this call, you heard him earlier. And of course, the thing is that, frankly, I don't watch the time that I do this, and most people in my program don't really watch it because it's not really work. They love this stuff. So Steve, by the way, he just so casually, he was just talking to me the other day, and it was like, yeah, Saturdays are my Power BI days. And I'm like, what? I was like, yeah, I just take Saturdays out and just focus on Power BI and just dig around with different stuff. Because we love it. It's a weekend, Steve, but no, he loves it, right? So again, I've experienced the same way. So hopefully that's the same for you. You're doing it because you love it, you enjoy it. And again, it may not happen in a day. Sometimes you fall in love over time, and that's okay. But yeah, so that one is kind of open-ended, right? So yeah, it's 2 hours, 20 hours, up to you. If you don't have an opportunity to apply it at work, that is a bit of a problem. Now, of course, we try to solve that inside a program by things like this, the real Power BI. So we're bringing real projects for our students. So of course, hey, I did a shout out at the beginning, but yeah, so the applications for real Power BI are open right now. So if you're a small and medium-sized business looking to kind of get started in Power BI, get help with your first project, then apply, and we'll match you up with a qualified professional who can lead you by the hand. So we talked about how that's sometimes kind of important. Awesome, right? So, okay, cool. So that was that. Let's see. Eric is here, late to the party. All right, man. Good to have you on. Constant learning process. Yep, Danny. Agile learning. So that's what agile is about. Continuous improvement, and approach learning the same way. So I mentioned this earlier, that I'm trying to see that, these things do they apply to my life as well. So this agile and all that, we applied it to our vacation, last vacation we took, and I think with good results. It was a first, but it was pretty good. So yeah, you can read about how the results turned out if you follow me on LinkedIn. I think I published our trip to Banff. Let's see, I'll pull it up. Maybe put a link as well. Cool. So boy, I didn't pause and ask for questions on the phone, but if you have questions on the phone, go ahead and ask. And folks on if you are on YouTube and you've joined the Talk Power BI Club, by going to the talkpowerbi.com, then so just go to talkpowerbi.com, and that's going to put you in our Insiders Club. Then you can dial in using this one, and we want to have our students be present for us to call. So we have a password for this, and today's password is happy. Colin password is happy. Yay. Join at www.talkpowerbi.com. PowerBI.com. So we'll wait for a bit in case somebody joins up. And again, folks on the phone, the Learn Power BI students, if you have a question, could be Power BI, could be something else, career, anything, but then let me know. All right, so we have Shao on the phone. I see her, and if I remember right, she is a repeat visitor. Good to have you back on. Hi, hey Shao, let's see if we can hear you. Seems you're on mute right now. Let's see. Go ahead, unmute yourself. So if you have the right Shao, then she is a research student in Washington, D.C., working on a thesis, which was about project management, time tracking, something like that. Seems you're on mute right now. All right.
Hello?
Yes. Hey, Shao, how you doing?
The right Shao.
Hi.
She
Hey,
is
do me a favor. Can you mute me on YouTube?
Washington D.C. working on a thesis, which was about project management, time tracking, something like that. Right now.
Hold on. Hey, I'm gonna mute you. It's always weird to hear your own voice. So, Shao, yeah, you can stop the YouTube feed or pause it or mute it, and then go ahead and unmute yourself here.
Hi.
All right. Yes. All right. No echo back. How are you doing today? Hello. You can hear me, right? Hey, Shao. I think I can hear you. What's happening? Chat. Oh, okay. So I see you send the file link, and let's see if you have audio. Hey, Shao. I can hear you typing. I think that's what I'm hearing right now. True, but not hear you speak. That's kind of weird. All right, man. This was. So Shao, if you think we got the audio, then just say hello again. I mean, I heard you say hello, and then I'm hearing kind of typing, but not the audio. I can't hear you speak, so something weird going on. But meanwhile, we'll recap for last Friday's call. So by the way, Shao got a belated gold star. I missed awarding it then, but this question definitely got a gold star.
I'm hearing kind of typing, but not the audio. I can't.
Yeah, I'm hearing myself back.
Hi, Avi. I can't hear you from Zoom, but I can hear you from YouTube.
Oh boy, that's not
Hear
gonna
me?
work. Yes, I can hear you, but you're gonna have to. Hey, look at the chat window in Zoom.
I will
It might be
join the
flashing.
meeting again to see if I can get your audio.
Yeah, there is a select a speaker thing here. Oops. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so there should be something like this. Oops, that's not what it is. All right, so we'll wait for that. I was talking about Gold Star. So the Gold Star is simple. Gold Star has to meet 3 criteria. One, it should be a real business scenario. Sometimes people give me like theoretical questions, and man, it just doesn't get me excited, right? So it has to be something real. So, oh yeah, what if it's this tax function? I'm like, what are you trying to use it for? Like, no, I just wanted to see how this is gonna work. And I try sometimes, but it doesn't get me going, right? So it has to be a real business scenario. I love those. And it has to be, so for the Gold Star, it sounds kind of simple. It's like, oh yeah, okay. But it's not. There's a lot to it, right? So if you go back to the Gold Star questions, yeah, they're like that. where the question is kind of sort of like, oh yeah, how do I how to make a report slim? But then you go deep into it, and man, we spent, let's see, 20 like 40 minutes on this question, right? So you can see that it has like so many different facets to it that we dove in. Now, obviously, we didn't even cover it entirely, but you can see that. So Shao had this question about start and finish time for different tasks. Like, okay, that seems to make sense. Kind of simple, but it was pretty powerful. All right,
Hi,
so
Ivy. I came
hey,
back. I can hear you
yes,
now.
yay! All right,
Yay.
so
So,
how have things
did I?
been since last week, since we last talked?
It's been great. I've been working on that, and it's we're on the right track. I got all my results I want. And,
Beautiful.
yeah, I want to go one step further, but
Yes.
I don't think the result is as expected. So I'm wondering
Okay.
what did I wrong. I shared the link with you through the chat.
Got it. And the file is public or sample data or something, right? I mean,
It's the same sample data we working on last time.
okay. Great. Love when people do that. Okay, so let's download it. And we're gonna put it. We're gonna make this file as we do all of our other files in Talk Power BI accessible to everybody. So if you go to talkpowerbi.com, you get access to our notes. You get access to any file that I've created in the past. So we're gonna put it there as well. So 2000 times. Okay, cool. I'll change the timestamp for this. 16. By the way, did you guys know? So I'm talking to the YouTube crowd that PPIX is just a zip file. It's kind of crazy. And of course, you can see that. So she had shared a Google Drive link that Google Drive kind of detects that, and it shows you, oh well, you got this file. It looks like a zip file, and here's what's inside. In fact, XLSX is also a zip file. One way to have fun with it is just you rename that and you change the file name, the file extension to .zip, and then you can just open it and poke around. Some cool stuff you can do. All right, so let's see the file downloaded. I'm gonna open it here. All right, coming up. Okay, there we go. It's still working. Finally, yay. All right, so let's do this.
Okay.
Let me give you, how do I give you keyboard control? Yeah, remote control. Shao. All right, so I'm gonna ignore this. Got it. So
Okay.
let's see. You should have keyboard control. Yeah, there you go. All right, so I'm gonna be hands off.
Okay.
So walk me through this.
So do you remember last time we've been working on the time eclipse?
Yeah, so I think we had some assumptions. So to recap it for folks on YouTube who might not have attended the last session, we have different tasks for different projects, and so this is what the data looks like, and it says, oh, for this project type, and of course to anonymize the data, she's kind of converted things to numbers, but I imagine this would be some text. So we have project types, and then we have the project name. And then we can have kind of the task name, which is interesting. It shouldn't be a date. This should be a number too. But task name, and actually, I'm not sure what's going on with the data. Start. What happened? This used to be dates, right? So. Yeah, so
See,
that.
that's fine. I
Oh
don't know
wait.
why you
Actually, did
don't
you see
see.
that? It just changed on me. That was.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know what
saw
was that. Yeah, so
it.
I'm glad this is being recorded. Otherwise, I would be like, whoa, I should not. Yeah, I know. All right, so yeah, so this is better. So project name again. This would probably be real name. So we have project, we have tasks, and each task has a start and finish date. And finish date can be blank if it's still going on. Pretty typical. But then what's kind of not typical is the questions she was asking. So typically in this scenario, people are the first thing that I would calculate for this model is just the span, and then I'll say, cool. I'm gonna figure out like how long it took for each of my tasks, and then I'll say, okay, on average, how long it takes me, and then I'll break it down by project, then I'll trend it over time. Really, really simple. Right? So, and I like starting simple, but in her case, she had a little bit nuance where she said, no, I wanna compare the time it takes, kind of the simplest example was a gap. Like I want to see the gap between when task A finished and task B started, right? When the planning or architecture model was done for the house, and then when we started construction, something like that, right? So that was one scenario. So cool. So talk about where you are right now. What's the next thing? What's the thing that you're stuck at now? What do you need help with?
So I have the measure time eclipse by the side. So when I go to the make this table, it says it shows what is the time eclipse for each project, which is fine. So I wanted to make this time eclipse a standardized number. So I need to calculate their standard deviation and the average, and then use the z-score calculated formula to get the result here.
Okay.
However, when I check it, so I put those numbers in Excel and the standard deviation and everything Excel, because I know that's the right answer. It's different with the result it showed here.
Well, oh boy.
So yeah, do you remember last time when we calculate the time eclipse for projects, we did this?
Yeah. So wait, which is the? Yeah, let me move myself. Hold on. So what's the? Gosh. So which measure is wrong? Is it the z-score or all of them?
Oh, it's only the z-score.
Only
so
the
the standard deviation is so it's kind of like for the standard deviation listed here is all the same because it's the standard deviation of of the group of data. So
got it. So only the z-score.
That's good. And the average time eclipse for that is also good because it's the average of all the five numbers.
Z-score is
and
different.
I thought the z-scores you just need to do the math of the three columns. However, when I put the z-score there, it's not the right answer.
Yeah. So, there was one thing that was going for me last time. So you heard my approach, human learning before machine learning. Like I knew how to calculate the gap between two tasks, right? If you showed me two tasks, this ended at January 1st, the other one started January 3rd, I could tell you, oh yeah, that's 2 days. And now z-score, gosh, I could Google it, I guess, or I could learn from you. Show me the formula. Show me the formula here.
Show me.
And wait, I mean, I'm thinking like, how would we?
Right here.
Yeah. Okay, it's
coming out. So it just is the difference. Yeah, it's very easy. It's the difference between the individual value and the average, and then divided by standard deviation.
Cool. Awesome. I got this. All right, so let me take on, and then I'll ask for help. If I probably would ask for help. All right, so I'm going to take a screenshot of this here. By the way, guys, screenshots, note-taking, it's a part of being a Power BI author. Whether you're doing it internally for your company or externally for a client, doesn't matter. I would highly recommend it. All right, so, and of course, I use this tool, Jing, huge fan, free tool, to annotate stuff as well. So first of all, I want to make sure that I want to highlight that. So the formula is simple. Time elapsed, which I can see right there, minus average time elapsed divided by standard deviation. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's fire up Excel. I probably could export this data to CSV as well. Maybe I'll do that while Excel is coming up.
Also, it worth to mention that last time when we calculated the average time elapsed, we used the average X and value, project name, and time elapsed. When I use that, I found out when you put in the table, it will have the same number of the individual one, which makes sense, is how you group the result. So I changed that to all for project name. So it will have the same number for
Yeah.
each individual project.
Okay. Well,
It's
let's
just
see.
for the sake of this calculation.
Let's go. Where is my doc Power BI? 2019. Oh, I should CSV. Oh, files. Oh, shoot. Oh, well. Not what I wanted. Data. Text to columns. Delimited. Okay.
Okay.
So let me go back here. Where's my screenshot? Oh, there it is. And I'll grab this guy. Okay. Okay. So if I were to do it here, I would say give me the time elapsed minus average time elapsed for projects divided by standard deviation.
Yes.
I don't know. Looks the same to me.
Huh.
What am I missing? Now, I did notice something that was off for this one, which is the total. Right? So I would bet that this is not right because this is not right, right? So maybe the total was where it was off.
Can I share my screen?
You can. Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Click the green share button.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yay, we got it.
Yeah. So those are okay. These are the one I got.
Well, then some of the data is different. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that could be.
Wait. Hold on. Let me compare it with what I have. So let's focus on the first one. And I like being able to just narrow down a single row. So you have the first formula is basically 99. So focus on that. Yeah, 1.861. Click on that one. So that's A1, which is 99, right? Minus what? What did the formula say?
Minus this one.
Just click on the 1.86 thing. Can you click on the B1 cell?
Oh.
Yeah. So minus A7.
Oh, I think I.
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
I use the number wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the formula should be right, right?
Well, it shouldn't be A7. It should be A8. A1 minus A8. Right, so it's time elapsed minus
Yes,
average time
yes.
elapsed.
This, I
And
think this
I
one is
think,
wrong.
so it should be A1 minus A8 divided by A7.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
Yay.
All right.
Sorry about that.
No,
But
no, no.
also,
Yeah.
yeah, this is stupid. Sorry. But
Stuff happens.
also I'm wondering, is there any way, so this table right here is kind of like only for visualization.
Mm-hmm.
If in the future I want to refer to one of the columns here, is there any way to do that?
Refer to one of the columns. With the columns you're
Yes.
using are measures. Time elapsed is a measure. STD is a measure. Measures are infinitely reusable. That's one reason I love measures. Yep, you can use them wherever you want.
How can I refer it? Because it doesn't enter any.
What? You already are. When you have the in your z-score, you're just saying, hey, time elapsed measure minus average time elapsed measure divided by standard. So yeah. So
Oh, okay.
as simple as
So
that.
anytime it will calculate it under each different project's name. Am I understanding right?
Well, so let me put it this way. DAX is always right. Anyway, sometimes people say, oh yeah, this measure isn't working right. I'm like, no, the measure is working right. But it sometimes may not give you the expected answer. Sometimes it would give you unexpected results. If that happens, then you just gotta, kind of get in the debug mode and step through the ICANN principle and so forth, right? The ICANN, the 4 steps: incoming filter context, look at what calculate is doing, apply relationships, and number 4 is doing the numbers, right? So it's standard steps. So theoretically, measures generally, the general rule is measures are defined once, used everywhere. So once I define a sales measure, then I can look at sales by product category. I can look at the trend, all of that. I can slice and dice it however I want without thinking about it, without revisiting it. And that applies to simple measures, and that applies to complex measures. One example could be, imagine like returning customers and new customers or something like that. And then I can define the measure, and then just once I've defined it, then I can forget about how I defined it, and I can say, cool, now I want to see it by month and by product and by category and by location and by the color of the thing they bought and all that sort of stuff, right? So that's the general rule, but sometimes it wouldn't work due to different things that happen inside measures. And again, the things itself are simple; they're Lego blocks, but we combine them to create some complexity, which is okay. So sometimes you would see that, oh shoot, it works in this, but it doesn't work in that. And that's when you get in this mode and say, okay, let me see what's going on.
Okay, that makes sense. Also, can you explain, like, every single time when I wanna make a new measure, I always consider if I should use a new measure or I should use new column.
Yeah, no, you should never use columns.
You should never use new
No.
column. Oh, okay.
Okay.
If you wanted that to be a dynamic measure, you wanted to use the measure, not the column, right?
Yes. No, actually, I was just kidding. Columns, you can use sometimes. I'm trying to see how the heck. Oh boy. I'm sorry. New to Zoom. All right. So columns versus measures. Let's call it out as a separate question. So you know what? Hold on. Let me share my screen back with you again. So I'm probably not going to take that much notes, but it may help. So screen to share. Okay, cool. So here, so this was so actually let me kind of say, so 11, what is the time right now? 11:32. Measures versus columns. Yeah, okay. Okay, if I can spell. Great. So before we go there, I want to go back to this. So formula in Excel, different results than Power BI measure. So folks, uh, I'll I'll so again, not to throw Excel under the bus, right? So anybody who's so obviously there are lots of different ways to do things in Excel. It's a very flexible tool. And one trick that I use in Excel is I'm a huge fan of tables. I almost never let my data be kind of on its own and like, da 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 and something something. I always create a table. Again, I mean, mostly, let's say. And of course, you saw one advantage of that is that you can do naming like this. And if you do it this way in tables, then it doesn't say A2 or B something. It has these names, right? So it's time elapsed minus, and so it makes it easier. But it's still pointed to an issue with Excel. So again, you probably heard me use this phrase here, where your strengths are your weaknesses, and your weaknesses are your strengths, right? Students come to me and I was like, Avi, I don't have a client. How can I compete with somebody who has these big consulting companies? Well, and I tell them that, hey, that is your weakness, but that is also your strength. Because you can go in and tell that person that, hey, if you become my client, you're going to have my 100% dedicated attention. Can any other consulting company do that? No, they can't. Right? So your weaknesses can be a strength, or your strength, if you choose to see them that way. But in Excel case, its strength is it's ultimately flexible. There are like lots of ways of doing things, and some can lead you in trouble. And again, I mean, I realize that flexible, that's somewhat true of Power BI as well. But again, the thing is, Power BI doesn't have the burden that Excel has. Excel is a Swiss Army knife, right? I mean, think about, man, I've seen everything under the sun being done in Excel, right? So Power BI isn't that. Power BI's goal is simple: data to insight, right? That's the underlying goal. That's it. So it can help you avoid the kind of things that one of those you saw Shao step in. That was just one example. So I just wanted to kind of call it out. So let's come back to Shao's question on measures versus column. And well, this one is often asked, and this definitely, we probably covered this in the channel, but it's good enough that we should cover it again. Really quickly, measures versus column. It's odd that yeah. So this one is valuable. So for one, it may not happen to everybody, but Excel users, when they come to Power BI, they tend to gravitate towards columns. And I think it's even worse if they're using Power BI inside of Excel, and there it's called Power Pivot, or one of those components is called Power Pivot. And that one has this thing, that's this word right next to the data, and it says add column. It's so and that seems a natural way. Excel users, they can kind of see it. But that's not the right way. The strength of Power BI is in the measures. And again, if you watch my 60-minute tutorial, so Shao, just to be clear, I'm talking to kind of the YouTube audience as well, right? So you hopefully have seen this tutorial. So if you watch that 60-minute tutorial, it talks about that, and it talks about the advantage of measures, and you heard me mention this phrase. It's like define once, use everywhere. It's magical, right? So this idea that instead of writing lots and lots of formulas, and that's how my Excel files would look like, right? The old Excel files, where it'll be formulas and formulas filled in sheets, workbooks, all of that. So instead of that, you define formulas once, use them everywhere, right? So you can slide, once you define sales, new customer, you can use it everywhere. So that's the advantage of measures. Actually, you know what? Let me see. So yeah, I can't. Maybe I've covered this inside the in one of the videos, but let me see if where. Oh, maybe it is right in the tutorial. Calculate columns as measures. Yeah, so I think it's in the 60-minute tutorial as well, which is right there, the first one there. But I could find it a little more easily here. So let's see if I have a nice visual here. Okay, maybe the recap in the end. Yeah, perfect. So again, I think the tutorial has that, and of course those who have access to the course can watch this video. So again, people tend to lean towards columns. That's probably the number one biggest thing that holds them back. That's what we see. And again, I've talked to other Power BI trainers as well. So and if they switch to measures, it just liberates them, right? So incredible leap. Kind of one of those small steps of a man or woman, I guess, and a giant step, towards progress in Power BI. So, but then there are other differences too. So calculated column adds to the file size. This one has no impact on file size, and that is crucial because these models are in-memory models. They're supposed to be loaded in memory. So whatever your file size is, that's what's going to be your memory footprint. So that can control a lot of things, influence a lot of things, can make it slow or fast. And again, you might say that, oh, my data model is small, but this one is. What about the next one you're going to build? So my belief is that once you know, and yeah, it's important to know the core concepts, know the best practices, and it's important to follow them every time. Not just when you have to, like, oh, now I have a million rows, so I'm going to think about this, right? So calculate columns, that's kind of number one. And then there's some other differences in terms of DAX, whereas row context is kind of built in here. In this one case, it's absent, but it can be created. In this case, filter context is absent, but can be created. In this one case, filter context is built in. And of course, the other big one that, yeah, you're right. So you said it, Shao, that these ones are static. And these ones are dynamic. So they're not completely static. So calculated columns are calculated twice. So one is when you define or redefine. So obviously imagine you went in there and you added a formula and hit enter, or you changed the formula. So define, redefine, that's one. And the other one is when the model is refreshed. So those are the two times it's calculated. But otherwise, interaction-wise, once you publish the report, then they're not going to be calculated again. Okay. Whereas measures are always dynamic, right? I mean, that's why the difference, no impact on file size, because guess what? Those numbers are not stored. It's just not stored. All it stores is the definition of the measure. So generally, letting go of columns and starting to create measures is the biggest leap, one of the biggest leaps you can take in your Power BI journey. When you're ready. All right, cool. All right, awesome. I had one other thought on measures calculated. Now, of course, the real question, the follow-up question there is that, so when is it right to create calculated columns? Right? It's like, is the answer never? It's not never. That's a fun one. We'll leave it for now. but yeah, that's a fun question to answer. It's like, so when do we use calculated columns? Awesome. So let's see. What do you have? Do we have somebody else on the phone?
Can I ask for one more quick, simple question?
Let me just do a roundup. If there are no other questions, then yeah, we'll let you go. So
okay.
So Danny had some comments. So Danny's saying maybe in my model. Invalid filters on page. Yeah, I think this is a test model, so I'll ignore it. Yeah. The Italians, respect. Those guys are amazing. Marco Russo, Alberto Ferrari have a general rule of thumb. Use a calculated column only when needing to slice filter on the value. Yes, that is one scenario. Well, I wouldn't say only. So, thank you, Eric. Yeah, of course. So Eric for sharing that. So that is one scenario, is when you need to slice or filter by something. I wouldn't quite say filter. So slice for sure. You cannot make a slicer out of a measure. Last I checked, it might change. No, I don't think it can change. I don't think, it's just theoretically not possible. So you cannot to make a slicer. So we don't have a slicer here, but imagine a slicer. So you can't do that with a measure. You cannot do that. You can do filtering using measures, not in all scenarios. There are some scenarios where filtering by measures just wouldn't accept it, but in some cases it would. Right. But that is one scenario. There are a few others. So this is a fun area. All right, let's see. Eric, good shout. Yep. All right, so uh, we have another person on the on the call. Uh, Ganima, I see the screen name. I just want to check in to see if you have any question. I did see your comment, and that was absolutely spot on. Measures are calculated on the fly, whereas columns are added to your table. If you have a question, type in. You don't seem to have audio. All right, so I think Shao, the coast is clear. I don't see any new questions on YouTube. So you're good to go, guys. We'll make it the last one. I would love to go with the 3 hour mark, which may still happen with Shao's last question, but we'll call it a day. And of course, we're gonna hang out next week as well. So few announcements. One announcement I want to repeat again, which is if you are part of a small or medium-sized business, we have launched a real Power BI project right now. It's open right now. It's going to be open till September 1st. And this, we only do this a few times a year. Right now, the schedule is we just do it twice a year. That may change. We'll see. And so this is your opportunity to get help on your Power BI project. I mean, we say first Power BI project doesn't have to be, but the idea is if you're starting out, then you're going to get free help from one of our qualified professionals inside the Learn Power BI program. Just go in here, fill out a simple application, and then we're gonna match you up with somebody who can help you with that. So again, the page, just go to realpowerbi.com, or if you're on my site, Learn Power BI, then just click on the Real Power BI link right here, or again, just easy to remember, realpowerbi.com. Oops. I don't know how I do that. Okay, cool. So, and that has more information about that, and of course the application link to start that. And again, the idea is really simple. You submit projects, we match you up with the professionals inside our program, and of course we have done this a few times before with pretty incredible results. So we're pretty excited about this, and we're excited to be bringing this to you. So that's one. The other announcement that I had was that if you go to my channel and if you scroll all the way down or hit Control End, for those who love the keyboard shortcuts, I do. Next week, we're going to follow up on this topic. And so today we talked about opportunity and challenges, and one of the challenges, I'm glad it came up, was starting out. So yeah, that's a nice segue to the next one, which we had planned anyway, So and it said, so okay, cool. So hopefully today's session convinced you that it is an incredible opportunity, Power BI for small and medium businesses. But then you're thinking, okay, where do I start? How do I start? Right. So what we're going to focus on is maybe I'll go back and rename it, but I want to focus the session on kind of selecting your first Power BI project. That's obviously, before you start, you have to select something, and that's something that I'm pretty keen on. I believe that's a really important decision. It can make or break it. It can give you a lot of positive momentum and energy, and kind of Charles talked about, I think it was Charles, who's talking about how it kind of grew like wildfire. But it starts with that first project. That one is key. Right, so and Charles and others use words like that, right? I mean, jaw dropping, whoa. So one set of words which I like hearing is whoa. How do you do that? And whoa, can you do that for us? Can you do that for me? Right? So so how do you get that? And I think it all starts with being really careful and judicious and wise in selecting the project that you take on. And I'm not talking about this. So this is not learning mode. This is not where you're learning and trying something out. You can pick whatever you want for that. What I'm talking about is where you're like, you know what, I'm ready. And basically this is your pilot. This is your proof of concept. And I'm going to build something, and I call it the shining beacon of light. So I'm giving away some of the content for next week, but you build and it turns heads. That's what you want. They look at it and go, whoa, how do you do that? Can you do that for me? Right? So that's what I'm going to focus on. And again, hopefully we'll have we will have other voices in the discussion, and that always adds to it. So we'll see what kind of complexions or nuances or or things emerge from that discussion. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Certainly, I learned a lot from today's discussion, hearing from the professionals who joined today. So yeah, those two announcements. Real Power BI, go submit your project. Just go to realpowerbi.com or click on the link. And next week we're going to be continuing our discussion, focus on selecting the project. Now, of course, now if you realize that this discussion almost applies equally to large businesses too. And in a way, even the discussion today applies to them as well, because if you ask me, top down isn't a great approach for deploying Power BI. Somebody at the top can make the decision, but it should be run as a bottom-up project. It should be run as an agile project. So anything we're discussing on small and medium business does apply to large businesses if you are open to changing a mindset, changing how you run this. If you're running this the old school style, if you're like, oh yeah, it's going to be a 6-month project or 1-year project, and I talked about that, like, oh, we're going to catalog all the old reports and transition them one by one to Power BI. Just, I don't know. Yeah, it's like that's then, well, good luck to you, my friend. Right? So, that's gonna be awesome. Cool. So, Xiao, what else did you have in mind?
So we go back to the table. Down the bottom, there's always like a add up total column there.
Yes.
Usually when I select do not summary, it will go away. But for a measure, there's no option for that. How can I get rid of the total?
Oh, you don't want the total to show up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that. Let's see. Usually there's just a setting, total, turn off, something. Like
it's right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
okay, I thought it's like when you drag in columns, it will have the do not summary option, but for measure, you don't have it.
Yeah. So.
Right here when you click the.
Yeah. So it's total off. So what I would say though is that just kind of a small thing, and Xiao didn't actually do it. Well, not this time, but so Xiao, I hope it's clear. So sometimes I switch and talk to the YouTube crowd. So folks on the YouTube, you notice that when Xiao did this, she maybe felt a little silly. She said something really brief, like, "Oh yeah, kind of feel silly." But of course, I don't think it was her fault. I think it was the interface, and of course that's what I talked about. Like, well, Excel, you can make mistakes like that, right? That kind of stuff. And same thing here. So Xiao, it's not you, it's the tool. All right. I mean, if you haven't felt this already, if you think about it, this interface isn't what it needs to be. And I know that because, man, I've seen Excel, right? So in Excel, things are much better. I can click on an axis, and the options shown to me, are relevant to that, right? Yeah. Relevant to that, and of course I can do kind of other stuff and click on a point, and now it's relevant to that. Obviously, that's been refined over time, and it's a good interface, really good interface. Power BI isn't quite there yet, and that makes it tough. And in a way, their search box is an admission of failure, right? I mean, if your options are set up so that somebody needs a search box, then it's not done right. But that's okay. I mean, it's obviously an awesome tool and I love it. And they are moving towards, making it simpler. But I would say that search box is certainly your friend right now. And I use it all the time. So if I'll go in here, then I'll search for like total or something, and right. And sometimes the trick is that you need to sometimes. And again, the search box is kind of a failure because sometimes if you don't know what to search for, it's not going to work for you, right? So in this case, maybe you would have gotten lucky. But I'm gonna do one other thing here. Let's try matrix. And hopefully matrix, and I'm just going to say matrix and task. Where's task name? Yep, task name. Let's try that. Cool. So shoot. So right now I can it's a matrix with multiple levels, and I can right click and drill down. I think drill down. Let's see. Cool, right? So I can see 334 to 205, right? But there's an option to put like you know how in the Excel, the pivot table, you have the plus button and you can click to expand and collapse, right?
Yeah.
That it has that option too. But man, and of course, the first time I was searching for it, I was searching for like collapse, expand, or something like that, and it wouldn't show me anything. But now I know I search for plus, and it shows up. So again, right? I mean, but initially it was frustrating because I was searching for a lot of stuff, but I just didn't know what to search for. So yeah, so it's the interface. In this case, yeah, it was the interface, yeah, not you, yeah. But anyway, it's the plus minus. Now it's that way. All right, terrific. So Shao, thank you so much for all your questions
Thank
today.
you. Thank you so much.
Last Friday, absolutely. And folks, yeah, gosh, it's what's the last thing? So of course, the call to action, Real Power BI, submit that. Join us for next week. And the only thing that I would say is that what I said earlier about learning Power BI is that focus on kind of forward progress. And if it feels like you get knocked off the saddle, that's okay. It happens. Just get back on. All right, Power on, friends. See you next time.